Body young and carry longer to love. Please, pretty please, somebody take one more look. Tell me, did I fall in love? Like the love,
Yes, this is John, John Magic Man Up Radio.
feels we the only ones to blame. I'm proud. We can only come together. We can solve problems. Come on, please. Please. Tell me why these rappers preaching and teaching. Please. Please. If we ain't reaching our youth, who we reaching? Please. Tell me why my friend don't wanna be like me. Please. Oh, please. And my daughter wanna mimic the TV. What's going on? What's going can somebody make some jobs for you? Oh, please, please. Don't nobody wanna hear the truth, but I'ma tell you, please. Oh, please. Don't turn your back on the next generation, please. Oh, please. Help us to fix this situation.
Right.
Please, somebody gotta do it. Please, we need to change everything in Christmas. Please, 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 oh please, please. Right, absolutely.
Welcome once again.
Welcome once again. I should have died.
To another Man Up Radio show.
I'm loving you.
Right. I hope y'all like when you come on to the show. Absolutely. Appreciate getting that on there, Mr. DJ. We appreciate you. So welcome once again to another Man Up Radio show. We're focused on a definite manly topic, which is what are the most important things men today can do to be productive members of society. We are asking for the world. You know, they have all that stuff. People say they're asking for a friend and this, that, and the other. We are asking for the world, right? Because men are a very important part of society. And some would say that men are fading to the back. Or as one of my favorite street poets would say, Mr. Jay-Z, men are somewhat fading to black. So we're seeing a situation where men are finding themselves more in the background and trying to find a space. So when you look at the highest percentage of men that voted Republican this year, some would say that it's not about voting for Trump. It was about voting for the traditional man and the power that the man has or should have in society, right? I know I can say the power that I saw men have as we all grew up, right? So, with that in mind, I want to introduce my guest. I've got Mr. John Yah with us, right?
Good morning. Good morning.
All right. Then we have is that Miss Vanessa?
Yes, it is. Good morning, you guys.
All right, Miss Vanessa. Fantastic. So we got John Yah, Miss Vanessa, and then we have a special guest back once again by popular demand, Miss Tressie Renee, Movement Master.
Good morning.
All right, all right.
Good morning.
All right, fantastic. So I want to dive right in as usual. We talked about this topic.
Hey, Joseph.
Absolutely, yes, ma'am.
You all, that's deep. But can I get my grapevine news in so y'all can hit it? Because you right on my subject right now.
Okay. All right. Well, you know what? All right. So we're gonna do something a little bit different. I don't mind. Let's go ahead and get the grapevine news in, and right here, right now, Miss Vanessa's grapevine news.
Hey, hey, hey. Good morning. Good blessed morning to you, radio listeners, and also my wonderful crew. I just want to send out good vibes to you all this morning. Much love. I tell you, I'm on a spiritual high in dealing with some of these things that I see that are happening. Always COVID. Keep that forever present and close to me, because I've had a lot of friends and their families that get sick from that. So that can't go away from me. But the one thing I want to say, I want you all to know that at the radio station, just because the phone calls do not come in does not mean that people are not listening. Do you hear me?
Absolutely.
Yes, just because the phone calls don't come in does not mean people are not listening. Kudos to Nishorn for pulling this together and getting us going. This is a wonderful outlet. It's a wonderful opportunity for men to key in, touch base, think a different way, and put your input in. Now that I've said all of that, I'm going to say this and I'm going to get off the phone. I am heated, okay, to say the least. All these young mothers, these mothers with these babies that didn't get here by themselves, but they're acting like they came by themselves. It takes two people to make a baby. We know that, don't we? All right, and I'm speaking to the brothers. Where are you? Where are you with your support of these women? You talk about the women and how they're not doing and what they're not doing. When are you all going to step up to the plate? And I'm talking about Greeks. I'm talking about men. And I know each and every one of you know a woman that has a child, especially a man child. They say a woman can't raise a child, man child. Well, where are you? What are you doing? When are you going to do it? We can't wait too much longer. We're losing too many of these babies, and I can't take it. It's killing me. It's killing me. There's something needs to be done, and I'm saying don't let the women come up and come up with something else again. There needs to be a mentoring program here in Louisville, Kentucky. I will spearhead it if you need me to, but I would want to see the men take control of this. These young boys need someplace to go. They need to see men being men, knowing how to be a man. Too many of them hanging out on street corners, not helping their mother, trying to do everything she can. And she can't buy their love. There's no such thing as bought love. She can't do it. She needs help. They all need help. You need to step up to the plate and stop dogging her and putting her down and find out what you can do to be assistant. Let's see this love get started and keep going. I love you guys. Stay blessed. I got to drop that and I got to run. Love you.
All right. All right. We love you too, Miss Vanessa, and definitely appreciate you and everything that you bring to the table. That's leading right into what we're talking about. Really, what are the most important things men today can do to be productive members of society? We talked about this earlier this week on social media and got a lot of different responses. I'm going to kind of read some of the responses just the same. I got some stuff. Let's see. There was a who is this? Mr. Courtney Lamont here had some responses as well. All right. All right. All right. There we go. So we had let's see, Miss Johnny Rose. It is so much deeper than what many of us could ever begin to fathom because it depends on what healing looks like to an individual. Can't expect nobody to think like another because each individual has different perspectives. It's like I just want to go up to people sometimes and ask them what their eyes see and what their soul feels. I agree and think it would be interesting study for men to partake in just to see where their heads at and if there is a common denominator when it comes to their vision or perspectives of the world at hand. So that's a powerful comment right there when you really think about it. And there was a lot of people that shared some things: work, pray, rest, heal, save, serve, study, train, replicate, and repeat. That was Courtney Lamont Phelps there. So a lot of different perspectives when you really look at this. But the idea is, how do men show up today? How do men show up? And I kind of want to bring Miss Tressie in when it comes to that terminology, show up, because that's something that she uses a lot uh, when we talk.
He hung up, though.
Okay, and Miss Tressie, I believe you would have to call back in because you may have been disconnected. So we'll get that. But when you think about that, so John, what would you say about the idea of how men show up today?
Well, the ideal is kind of simple of what men need to do. We can discuss that. But the technical part to getting there is the issue. Miss Vanessa touched on the most important issue dealing with men in relationship to women. And I think that
and when we break
the reason that is
because, are we talking about the ability to take care of our children? Is that what we're breaking down with what Miss Vanessa said?
Yes, yeah, she's talking about the whole totality
I was
of
trying to
it.
get back on the Man Up Radio show.
All right, you are here, Miss.
All right,
Tressie.
you are here, Miss Tressie.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
But go ahead and finish that thought, John, y'all.
Well, if you look at the whole overall picture of men stepping up, they're stepping up to what they're supposed to be. It covers everything. It will cover them being more assertive. It will cover them being more fatherly. That will cover them understanding women and the role of women and the role of their mother. But as we go on, we're going to, later I can tell, we're going to touch in how he got this way, to where he walks away from his child so easily, to where he usually have sex with women and don't have no real connection with them, where he doesn't assert himself to the fullest as a man to take care of himself first and his children. And most important, where young men lacking the ability to have a vision of a future, It's like the old saying, you ask these young boys today where you're going to be in 5 years from now. If he can't tell you, then he's already facing death. It means that he don't have a clue. He's just living day by day.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, Miss Tressie Renee, Miss Movement Master, you use that terminology or not? How you show up. What would you speak to that when you talk about men and how they show up today or how they should show up today?
Leonard, go on.
Well, first I want to say that it's typically very easy for women. We get in our little groups and our little cliques and we just talk about all of our emotions, our ideas, our dreams, what we're thinking, what we're feeling. And so, you know, one of the terms that we definitely like to use is how do you show up? You know, how you show up for yourself. And that is your self-talk. That's your self-positive or negative talk. That's how you're sourcing yourself, whether you are liking yourself, loving yourself, feeling yourself, hating yourself. It's how you're showing up for you. What is your support for yourself? Because that's going to speak louder. You know, how you show up and who you are at your core is going to speak louder than even what you're saying with your mouth in the moment, right? And so when we talk about how we show up, that's your core belief about yourself. And that's what plays in your mind, in your head regarding you, and then how that presents itself when you get out here in society. And I think that when it comes to our men, I don't know if there is enough talk about, as a man, do I like myself? Like, do I support myself? Like, do I get with myself? How do I show up? And maybe you guys use a different terminology as to what that looks like. But typically when I'm asking someone, what does that look like when you show up for yourself? The answer that I'm always getting is, haven't thought about that. Don't know what that looks like. So for me, that's a conversation, is to ask, how do you show up for yourself? What does that look like when you're being there for you, when you're using your voice, when you're using your knowledge, when you're using your good sense?
Now, that's interesting because, again, you know, we're talking about a terminology, how we show up. You're right. Men don't talk like that amongst each other. You know, I've never had, you know, I mean, we barely say, I love you. You know, I practice that with brothers like John Yah, you know, Mr. Leonard Walker, who's on the line, me, Sean. You know, we practice this type of stuff. We say, love you, bruh, and things of that nature, because it is a genuine love that's there. But, you know, I've never had the conversation with another man to say, you know, hey, bruh, what do you think about how the world sees you? You know, that's not a traditional conversation. Now, when you're talking, Miss Tressie, you're speaking because you do some counseling and such with men, women, couples, and such, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're hearing some of these things a lot. Now, we've got Mr. Leonard Walker on the line, and I know one of the things that I would love to hear from Mr. Walker is the idea of setting up a perimeter. We, you know, in the Man Up Show, we talk about that, and I know Leonard, you can speak to that. How you doing this morning, Leonard?
I'm good, man. I'm good.
Good. So you speak about that from time to time when we talk about setting up a perimeter around yourself, setting up a perimeter around the home. You know, give us a bit of a quick synopsis as to what that means as a man setting up a perimeter.
Setting up a perimeter. Men within our community, let me just start like this. Within our community, each member has a burden. The man's burden is to protect the community, his family, himself, the community, all of it. That's his burden. So what a perimeter does is it sets boundaries. Okay. Within this perimeter, these are the things that are the rules within this space, okay? And I am the enforcer of those rules. So if you as a person first set a perimeter around yourself, and I'm setting a boundary within the boundaries of myself, these are the values and the rules that happen within my boundaries. I will not be so-and-so, I will not be such and such, I will not do these types of things. What I will do is I will do this, I will do that, and I will do so-and-so, right? So, making these boundaries are important because what it does is it gives you an idea of, how you're going to live your life, all right? What is going to guide you? What are your rules going to be? Who's going to establish and who's going to maintain? Who's going to have who's going to have accountability, right? Accountability, all these things are responsibility, accountability, all these things are things that are traits of men, right? Am I going to live my life in honor? Who am I going to honor? How am I going to honor myself? How am I going to honor my family and those before me? These are things that you put in your perimeter. And then as a man, once a man achieves a level of success and, I'm able to make it on my own and do things, now I'm ready to extend that success to make a family, all right? What is missing is we're making children without having wives, okay? So as men, this has to be a rule, all right? I need to make my children with my wife, okay? Plain and simple. It's the woman that I'm married, plain and simple, right? Why is that important? Because it builds a family structure. There's levels of character that is being built, right? I mean, you're developing systems like there's a man, your perimeter, you're setting what you're doing and you within your perimeter is I am making myself self-sufficient, right? I'm making myself successful. I am making myself honorable. I am making I'm living with within rules of guidance, okay? All right, or rules that I am accountable for myself, making my own self accountable. Okay, so once you extend that perimeter to a wife, okay, now, it becomes, now I have to think about another person, okay? Now I have to think about how my actions affect that other person, all right, and how my decisions affect that other person, right? That builds care, that's selflessness, that's generosity, all right, that's thoughtfulness, okay? And then you extend it out to children, all right? Me and this woman, we've had children now. Now I have to give more of myself, okay? But within this perimeter, I'm still the one creating these rules, right? I'm still the one establishing these things. And these are not rules because I'm trying to lord over or I'm trying to run roughshod over somebody. I always say you pay the cost to be the boss, right? That means the man is willing to make the greatest sacrifice.
So when you think about
making
that,
those greatest sacrifices.
when you think about that, Leonard, something I heard, which I like, you said, success. When a man achieves success, and I think it's important to talk about the fact that success is not, growing up and become the wealthiest person in the world. Success is the ability to make it on your own, and that's kind of a definition that you gave there. And just the same with what you're describing is interesting. Okay, Miss Tressie, we found the common verbiage for show up for men is setting a perimeter. Okay, so that sounds like man talk. I don't have a problem personally walking up to my brother and say, how's your perimeter looking, bro? Versus how you showing up. It's a little bit different when you say it that way. So I get it. With respect to that, then Mr. John Yah, I know that you have a perspective. We've spoken about it before when it comes to how a man got there. When it comes to how a man got to the point to where there is these issues today in society, to where there is a lot of illegitimate kids, fatherless being on a day-to-day basis. And some would say and I think we've spoken about it before, that sex is a big issue. It's a thorn, in the side of men today. What would you say in relation to that as it pertains to the issues of men in today's society? Because it's not just the single man. We're seeing, again, in our community, of course, high divorce rates, but even outside of our community, those divorce rates are going up just the same, and there's a lot of infidelity having to do with a lot of that. But what would you speak to that angle there, Mr. John?
You know, when I was coming up in on the block, this was in the 60s and the 70s. Everybody that I played with, I can remember up and down the street, everybody had a father.
Yeah.
There was a father in every home that I could remember from those days. I don't think I had a friend that didn't have a father actually living in the home, right? So it was the norm for young boys at that point to have a father figure, right? Now, as time began to change, of course, I understood this because my father died when I was about 13, were a very critical stage. But I had already gained a lot. Give an example, a boy growing up with a father in the home, how his father, everything, how the parents behave in front of the child is extremely important. How the father treats the mother in front of the child. How the mother treats the father in front of the child. What is the conversation? What are they hearing? What are they seeing? These things incorporate a lot into a young boy. If a young boy is coming up and he has a father that is a constant worker, he works, he brings home the money, he's seeing this person provide, that becomes an image. And as he grows up, he seeks those images. So there's a lot of layers here. When she spoke about, the showing up, it's very interesting because when we talk about showing up, there are three characteristics of a man, a basic three characteristics. I love these three characteristics because I say that women naturally look for these characteristics innate. Through their nature, they're looking for a man that holds these three characteristics. And these three characteristics will cover that, what she says about men need to show up, right? The first characteristic is being able to survive. That's the number one characteristic of a man. Now, these also are tied to the success of a man. It's just how you describe his success. Now, how much money he's got. Now, how many cars he's got. Now, how many women he has had or how many children. These three characteristics describe his success. Number one, being able to survive. If he's not able to survive, what good is he in this dimension to you? Really not nothing. And so every woman seeks a man that he sees as one that can survive in this dimension, in this type of world. Secondly, a man that's able to provide. Okay? You can have a man that can survive, but he doesn't provide. So what good is he to the woman if you ain't going to provide? You have a bunch of children, you have a child, you're not going to provide. So that's another characteristic. If you look at nature, nature does this. Everything has this way of taking care of its offspring, all right? So that's a number two characteristic that a woman will look for that is tied to a man showing up for himself. The third one is have guidance. He must have some guidance. In other words, he could be able to survive and provide, but have no guidance. Now, from a woman's standpoint, that can be a little bit something that's taken away if she can't go to him and talk to him about her issues, and so that can create a wedge. But that still doesn't take away that he's done showed up in his man characteristics. He's just lacking guidance, right? So there's so many layers here in this man, but this man needs to, if he didn't have a father, and it's not to say that I've seen women who raise children without a father, he still grew up to be a hell of a man, by the way. So it takes a certain woman to raise a boy into a man. But absent this character, he grows up, he has to somehow find it. He has to somehow find, and all these images I heard, all these images of men, all these distractions. You got television, you got homosexuality, you got transvestite, you got all these images for a young boy to try to figure out what is a man and who am I and how do I find that. And he doesn't have that true guidance in front of him, a steadfast heterosexual man. Then anything open to him. Anything can be open to him, right? So he has to find his own legitimate way of knowing what is for him and what isn't. And that's going to be hard because he has to know that this way is right for him and this way is not right. If he doesn't know that, then he could never show up. He would never have the ability to know this way is the right way. He'll be lacking that ability.
That's interesting when you speak on that, especially when you said that it takes a certain woman to raise a boy to a man. I think sometimes, and this is part of the conversation we had earlier this week on social media, sometimes when that woman, that certain woman that does or has that ability to raise a boy to a man, sometimes it's at the sacrifice of her own femininity, because she has to play both roles. And a lot of times it's interesting because, you know, us fellas, sometimes we see it where right now in society, women are very much so leaders out there, but it's the idea of them turning that off when they come home to their man. Yet there's this, because you have this strong woman, which is great, but then where's the femininity at? It seems like sometimes that's lacking just the same. But then when you start, so, you know, you take a single woman, she's out there trying to date or what have you, and now, you know, she comes off so rough around the edges, and ultimately, you know, that can be somewhat of a turnoff sometimes, right? Now, society would describe it and say, well, you know, that man's not strong enough for that strong woman. But I believe that there's strength in femininity just the same. So I wanted to speak to that, and at the same time, you know, Miss Tressie, as you are, you know, out there doing your talks and things of that nature, then, you know, what do you see from the side of women when John spoke about those three characteristics? You know, how are women receiving that? Is that something that is a common thought among the women that you talk to from time to time?
Well, two things I want to confirm. Can you hear me good?
Absolutely.
Two things I want to confirm. One, we absolutely need our men. I mean, it's what makes the world go round.
Okay,
It's
so good.
like
So we established that y'all still need us. That's a good thing. I appreciate that.
we absolutely need you, and I want to use a eulogy that is given in the Bible, and I'm saying this with sensitivity to those who, so we don't get in a necessarily a Bible debate about what's in and what's not, what was first, what was second, however. But I want to use that story with Adam and Eve for just a moment. When you think of the concept in the beginning, when God took man and he went into man and pulled out that rib and made woman. If you go with me for just a moment, I'm just going to expand on that concept, because if I am your rib and I was originally, if you will, on the inside of you, I am surrounded by your blood, by your nutrients, by your cellular structure. I'm surrounded. I'm inside of you, surrounded by all parts of you. So when you pull me out of you, what is comfort to me is when you cover me, when you protect me. And you have the ability to speak uh, life to me, encouragement to me, nurture me. You are a healing agent for me. Vice versa, as I you, because I came from inside of you. So as your woman, I have everything I need to speak life to you, to heal you, to nurture you. Right? I know you. I know you. And so I think that in society with, like John y'all said, with, all the things that stimulate us as of distraction like TV and media and, this perception of everything that they put out there, getting back to the core about what's natural, about what is real, what is authentic. Uh, Men and women, we came from inside of one another. We have the ability to nurture, to speak life, to speak healing, to encourage, to build, right? To encourage. And so when whatever the situation, slavery or whatever that started snatching us from one another, speaking in particularly uh, uh, of black uh, Africans,
Our community.
our color, our community. Thank you. There you go. So when they start to separate us, that create a rift, and it mess with how our natural rhythm is set up and created for. So with that said, yes, security is important. Provision is important. Protection is important. And when those things get threatened and you find yourself out of place, especially for a woman, you mentioned, uh, Joseph, about women having a hard edge as being a single mother. And I am a single mother, and, you know, I have sons, and I have to speak to my son. And I try to always speak to my son from that feminine place and not add that hard edge. I will talk to my dad or my son's father. I will let the men step in and give him that masculine part that should be there. But I do hold my son to great expectations in terms of his manners. Are you being respectful? Do you know how to treat a lady? I'm preparing him, to be a man in society and to, in terms of, right, because it takes a man to raise a man, but in terms of his respect, in terms of his manners, in terms of his learning, his education, things that I know he needs to know how to carry himself, how to clean himself.
Absolutely.
I don't want to overtalk, so I'll just pause there and let you guys jump in.
Those are great points. And with what you said, one of the things, I'm thinking about, and is Mr. Leonard on the line there still?
I'm still here.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, because I want to jump in about that Adam and Eve part. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Give me 1 second here. So, what I heard from you, Miss Tressie, was not a finger point to the man, but a shared responsibility on both parts. Because Miss Vanessa, she jumped on and she ripped us all a new one. She ripped us brothers a new one when she spoke. And I think in society today, it tends to be a big finger pointing to the man. But you said something so important, that there's a responsibility of the woman to her nurturing capabilities. It's not just for children, but there's some nurturing capabilities that she has towards the man. So even through hard times, it's not, in a sense, I kind of think about it as a woman creating a space for a man to actually come and in a sense cry in her bosom, if you will, because men don't have a space for that in society. We can't walk in, it's more accepted in work for a woman to get teary-eyed because of stress or what have you than it is for a man. You know, when it comes to that, and
It is beautiful. It is beautiful. It is sexy for a man to come and lay on my chest and give me his heart, give me his compassion, give me his dreams, his visions, his ideas. I am a strong woman. I can hold that. I can house that.
mm,
What we struggle with is excuses,
mm,
right? I don't want excuses, but you can give me reasons. You can give me explanations. You can tell me what's going on, and I can support you in that, and vice versa. I too want a place to land. So I think that, we have to change the narrative that society is given, that if a man cries or if a man shows his emotions that he is weak or he's not being a man. I mean, that is a myth. Let me just say that. It is an absolute myth. I want to see your emotion. I want to see, what I'm saying, take your shirt off and give me your emotion. Give me your spirit. Give me your energy. Give me your love. Place that here and trust me with that, as are you. But let's honor each other. Let's respect each other with that. And as relates to the blame game, and I'd love to hear John, y'all, Mr. Walker, all jump in here. But I believe that the moment you play the blame game, you lose. That is a lower level of consciousness to operate in. It's a low level. You cannot play the blame game and win ever.
absolutely. So, we're gonna circle back to that real quick because I got a couple points I want to get in. Um, Leonard, I'm gonna come back to you on the Adam and Eve thing as well. Um, but Tressie, you said, so I like what you said. You said a place to land. I mean, you got all these euphemisms and all these different things you say that are interesting. But that shared responsibility is awesome when you really think about that. So there's a question out, and a couple people have asked it. What are the two most important things a woman wants from a man? I know you spoke on some things just now when it comes to emotion, but give us just two major things, two most important things that you would look out there in the world if you were hovering over top of earth as you dwell in the spirit of the universe and you look down. What are two most important things a woman wants from a man?
Just keeping it light on the surface, because that's a very, very deep question. And, women kind of want different things that are important to them. But this is what I hear over and over and over again. It's not that my man doesn't communicate, it's that he doesn't communicate effectively, right? So he might say something, but I don't understand what he's saying. I don't understand how he's saying it, or he's not saying it. So communication, effective communication, is a big one. A second one, I think, is men being emotionally available. That's the second thing I hear. He's not emotionally available to me. And so that could be a various reasons as to why a man is not emotionally available. I think that sometimes society likes to play this thing that a man has to be wealthy, drive a nice car. He can have all of those things and there'll be nothing up here that we can have intellectual conversation, that he has a vision, a plan. I always say a man with a plan is a sexy man. You got a plan. You got a plan that we can rock it. We can get somewhere with a little bit of money, with a lot of bit of money, with whatever resources we have. A plan will take us further down the road than just, no, I don't have nothing to say. I don't know what we're going to do. You're the woman. You tell me what to do. We need a plan. We need a plan.
That right there, you hear a woman, you hear a man, and I almost said you hear a woman, but uh, that sounds very womanly coming from a man. But you hear a man say something like, "You're a woman, you tell me what to do." Then that's a problem in and of itself. And I think even that statement coming from a man speaks to the idea of what some of our issues, especially in our community, is today, is the idea of there being so many fatherless children out there, and these men are being raised by women. Uh, women have their level of femininity. They're trying to emulate the idea of masculinity when they're dealing with kids sometimes, and ultimately these young men are growing up or have grown up, because we've seen a whole generation of them now growing up, and they're extremely emotional, and they don't have that plan idea in mind. Now, Leonard, you wanted to circle back real quick on the idea of uh, the Adam and Eve thing, real quick. We got a few minutes. Go ahead and speak on that, Leonard.
Right, real quick. And like I said, this is not a religious debate, but this is about symbolism. When you look at the human body, okay, of all of the bones, all right, God had chosen to create woman with from Adam, okay, chose the rib, all right. So, I mean, you got a femur, you got all types of things. Right? The importance of a rib. What is the symbolism of a rib? A rib protects the most rib bone, or that's why they call it rib cage. It protects the most vital organs of the human being, right? The heart, the lungs, the liver. Okay. Anything happens to any of these organs, okay, you either be damaged pretty bad or you'll die. Okay, especially the heart. So to take one of the things that protects the vital organs of a man and create a helpmeet, create a woman from that particular bone speaks of incredible symbolism. Can we see the dichotomy there? Right? As a man protects woman, a woman also protects man, protects his heart, protects his life. Okay? And a man protects her physically, protects her, emotionally. So we have to start looking at this thing as not man and woman or man or woman, but man and woman together as a community type, idea of how do we heal ourselves? What is our role? Also, if you think about it, role. The rib cage is specifically designed. The rib is designed for a specific purpose. That means it has a role, and a man has a role. Okay, we want to get away from we don't want roles. We want to be defined. Listen, I mean, obviously, like I said, this is an intelligent design here, and it's been working for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. When you follow it to the truth, so that's kind of the thing I want to show about that is just, the dichotomy of the intentional symbolism behind the bone that was taken to create woman, and how important that the role of that bone is in a man's life and what it actually protects.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I would love to. We'll probably do it on the Overload show here. John talk about how that symbolism plays out when you start talking commit, and other um, ideas of where that storyline goes and potentially came from. But John, I want to give you some time,
Right.
just the same to speak to this. We were talking about the blame game a second ago, and I know you got plenty to say when it comes to this whole topic. So, go ahead and give us some of that amazing wisdom, because you're kind of, in a sense, somewhat of the a godfather out here, an OG out here, along with my brother Mishon and Leonard, when it starts talking about men taking on responsibility. So think about that real quick, and real quick, I want to say something. Adolf, he said, I noticed he didn't say security or guidelines, but Adolf, I would say that when she said a man with a plan, that encompasses security and guidelines just the same. So, John, go ahead and give us something real quick.
Yeah. So, how did we get here? How did we get here to where we are talking about this separately? Because in reality, we are yin and yang. There is no yang without the yin. If it is dysfunction. So you have to have the woman, and the woman has to have the man, even in our image of the return. I like to say it like this, and I wanna mention something about what Miss Tressie talked about. Is very interesting about crime. I want to say this is that men, we actually came from the woman. So in a sense, when you pay attention to the science behind it, how we developed, we actually were female before the cells decided we were going to be a male.
Mm.
Right? We were female first. I know this is gonna hurt some men's ego, right?
This is absolutely gonna hurt some men. I know some men in our circle that this is gonna hurt.
Right. So let me prove this. You had a womb before you had a penis, right? And I can prove it. If you look and raise up your testicles, there's a line going from your anus, goes all the way around through over your scrotum, and all the way up to your penis. If you look at it, there's a line. That line looks like actually you were sewed up. You had a womb first before you had a penis, and before the cells made decisions to make you a penis or give you a vagina. The problem is that if you got both, you're as a hermaphrodite, the doctors did you wrong, because if they found out that you had a prostate, they should have sewed up the wound and let the penis grow. If you had an ovary, they should have cut off the penis and let the wound stay open. That makes sense? So we're actually entwined. I don't know how we got separate. We're actually entwined. You are me and I am you, actually. And we have to help each other to reproduce ourselves over and over again. So we play these games in this dimension of how we meet and how and all this and that. So let me say this, and when I want to touch on something that's very important. As I came up in martial arts or any sport that I came up in, where men are challenging men, men are told by the elder men don't cry. Don't cry. And as I grew up and to understand detox, if you got pressure built up in you, pressure from emotional pressure, you have tear ducts in your eyes to release the toxin. That's what it's for. You ball that up. You get ready to have a young man that's going to blow up one day when he gets older, because he don't know how to release the toxin. Because the masculinity has made us so masculine. Don't cry, boy. Men don't cry. Men don't cry. That's the worst thing you can tell a young boy, not to cry. Crying is the way he has to release those toxins, because if he don't release it, it becomes toxic inside his body and in his mind, and it later makes him worse. A worse of a person. Make sense? So we need to stop telling our boys, don't cry. Let them cry. Like the sister said, hey, give me your bosom. Let me let you cry. And we grow up without crying. We grow up without the ability of releasing those toxins. Then we out here in society as a teenager. Now we don't know how to release that anger. We don't know how to let it go. We don't know how to release that toxin, right? And so that's what we have in this society of young men today.
That's very interesting, and I'm sure that there's some people at home who their heads probably exploded just now, because I think every man as a child growing up has stood in the mirror and lifted things this way and that way just to study the anatomy of themselves. So you just explained something to them that they probably wondered about for many years. But with respect to that, I want to kind of real quick, we've only got a couple minutes here. Leonard, give me two things. Well, you know what? Let me do this. I'll tell you what, because we may have to do that on the overflow. Let me first give a shout out to Dr. Frank G. Simon, who is an allergist, immunologist in Louisville, Kentucky. He is a supporter of the Man Up Radio Show. You can give him a call at 502-895-5088. Just type in Frank Simon, MD, in Google Maps, and he pops right up. He is also someone that prescribes hydroxychloroquine for the COVID-19. He's done some studies among what he's seen with his people, and everything comes out fantastic and okay. So you can reach out to him. You got allergies or anything like that, which Kentucky is probably leading, if not the leader, when it comes to allergies, being in the Ohio Valley like that. But definitely reach out to Dr. Frank G. Simon on Browns Lane in Louisville, Kentucky. Absolutely. I also want to give a shout out to our private alliance partners from God's Lives Matter. They do advertise with us as well. So godslivesmatter.com. You can go there and make a donation because with all of us being under that umbrella, God's Lives Matter there. So you can hit them up at godslivesmatter.com. Real quick, Leonard, give me one thing that a man can do to be a more productive member of society. One real quick thing.
Find a young man that has no man in his life and start to mentor him and start teaching him manhood.
Absolutely. Mr. John Yah, give me one thing that a man can do to be a more productive member of society.
Study himself, study his ability of what he's capable of, and know his purpose.
Absolutely. Miss Tracy Renee, if you could give us something that you believe as a man can do to become a more productive member of society.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. I really think going back to just showing up, show up, be present, be here, be present. We can take it from there. If you're willing to communicate, we can work with you being present emotionally, physically, spiritually, mentally. Be here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Someone said on social media that a plan doesn't exactly mean a plan she supports. Her plan and his plan can be different plans. She needs to be specific on the type of plan that they both agree on. Guess what? Again, we're going back to the man being the man of the household. And if their plan doesn't go together, they should know that before they even get together and call themselves a union. So ultimately, that wouldn't even come into play because y'all should know that before you decide to call each other's. All right. So once again, this has been the Man Up Radio Show. We will continue online on the Overflow. This is Mr. Just Ask Joe. You got John Yah, and you have Miss Tracy Renee, Movement Master, who is stepping away just the same. Myself and John Yah will be on the Man Up Overflow, the Overload. Y'all can catch us online at hashtag Man Up Radio MUR. And we will see you guys next week on the Man Up Radio Show.
Yeah, bring the
All right, give me a second. I'm gonna
you can
pull us out real quick so that I can get all your. Okay. Now, real quick, Miss Tracy, you are you stepping away?
I can't.
You can't.
I can't step away.
It's too much, right? This topic right here.
Listen, being specific about having a plan. You don't have to be specific about having a plan. You know what I'm saying? It's having a plan, and that's in whatever genre, however you want to use that. Have a plan. In other words, if you say, I'm taking my family on a vacation,
Oh man.
and you don't have a plan to roll out that vacation. You know what I'm saying? Then everything falls on her. We're not doing it together if you don't have a vision, if you don't have a vision for it. So I can follow you if you have a plan and a vision, because the
But
moment
you said something important with just the terminology of follow you.
I can follow
You know,
you if there is a plan to follow. Now I may roll that out, meaning, hey, this is my vision. I want to go on a vacation. I want to do XYZ. I just need you to, you know, make it all come together, like decorate it, fix it up, but make it all come together. But without a vision and a plan and a support to that, then I don't have anything to follow. And then if I plan it out and I take over, now I'm being accused of being controlling and taking over because there wasn't a plan in place. So, like, we're having this tug of war, this back and forth, because there was no plan from the beginning. I've taken over. Control is the issue. Unspoken expectations, because you just put it out there, something that you want to do, but I feel the inference that you're leaning on me to make it all happen, as opposed to there's a plan and there's a vision to this plan. And so that's what I mean when I'm speaking of, having a plan. I have seen with mine own eyes, not blaming the man, but I have seen men, just put stuff out there that doesn't have any structure, right, to it. But then when it gets down to the heart of what we're talking about, uh, uh, a woman should follow a man, or a woman should submit to a man. Then I'm asking the question: what am I submitting to? What am I following? And I think that has to be discussed, because if I'm going to follow, then you have to lead. And let me just say this: a woman does not have an issue with submitting and following when you put a safe structure in place for her to follow and to sit in, meaning sit in that structure, sit in your plan and your vision that makes sense, if I can say that.
interesting. So, uh, Mr. Adolph, I totally disagree. She says no specific is not needed. What? So real quick, and then I want Mr. John Yada to elaborate. But real quick, Ms. Tracy, go ahead and speak to what you mean when you say no specific plan is needed.
Well, I think that his question in the comment was, what plan are you referring to? He seemed to question, what is the plan? And so I was not speaking specific to this plan or that plan, but having a plan, having a vision for your life, for your relationship, for your career, just having a plan, as opposed to out here it's really nearly going off the cuff and they're saying I'm a spontaneous guy. Yeah, spontaneity is okay, but you should have a plan. You should have a vision. And so that's what I meant by having a plan. I was speaking general because it's specific to whatever it is that is
It's
between
going on
you
in
and
y'all's
her or
lives. Yep. Absolutely. So, John, when you hear all of that, then I know you had something you wanted to jump in on with that. What comes to mind there?
Oh, yeah. Well, she's right. Having a plan is having a vision, and just that. And so you don't have to be specific, but have some type of vision. But listen, check this out. Tracy, I want to ask you a question, in your opinion of men and the men you see today in this society. What things you have heard and things you have seen. What do you say from a woman's perspective? You see men that are non-productive. You see men hanging in the street. You have seen men disrespect women. you're seeing the value. Now, when I say this, I don't want to say men, because the last thing I want to do is make a blanket statement and say all men. No, all men don't do that.
Right.
All men don't act like this. All men don't behave this way. But when we're talking about men and what they're lacking, can you give me a specific on what it is that women are looking for in a man? Let me give you an example. Some women support men in their homosexual behavior, but that's not the man they're choosing to go home with, right? Some women will support men who are trying to be transvestite, but that's not what she'll choose to go home with. So why is that? And how is that if the woman can support that behavior, but that ain't the type of man she would want to go home with? How do you balance that? I would think that if a man who's become a trans trying to be a woman, I would thought that would piss women off. Like, you trying to be me? Yeah, I thought that would be something that would upset them. Instead, it's kind of embraced in a sense. Yet we're talking men. And women who do that embracing, I question whether or not would they be okay if their son was either homosexual or so. I'm playing this role. I'm trying to picture this role as this whole totality of what you think of men today in this society, whether they are non-responsive to their children and being responsible for their kids, not being loving enough or affectionate enough for their women, or not being men at all. I just wanted to hear that, if that was enough. If that was too much, I don't know.
No, that's okay. Much respect to your question. It's a big question. It's a big chunk that we can chew one bite at a time. I think for me, one of the things that has challenged me in my core belief is, what is my stance on love? What is my seed that is in the earth? Meaning, how do I show up? How do I show up in relates to what I see with my brothers and my sisters, and the salt that I am to the earth? And for me, the core and the base and the foundation is love. With love, I can take off gender, right? I don't have to get caught up in your gender. I can allow you to be free to make a choice for yourself. Now, with that understanding, I know that people get hurt and they are broken. People get rejected, abandoned. People get raped, molested, psychologically abused. And there are many cases where there has been some type of sexual abuse, using sex in an abnormal way, right? That is not healthy. That doesn't come from a good, wholesome place. And it causes things to just get twisted in how you show up and how you see things, which causes you to go down paths that you might not have gone down. And so for me to hate you for that because you choose to live a different lifestyle, well, I'm not getting to the root of it. Number one, I'm just hating what I see, what I'm looking at, and not being understanding. And if you can't exercise some understanding and some love, then you can't be an agent for change. And that, so love is my base. And you're right. A lot of us women embrace it simply because we're nurturers and we understand it's coming from someplace. Mm-hmm.
Is it because you're nurturers, or because you want a new shopping partner? Because and I say that jokingly because that's what I see with a lot of women out here. Their gay friend, their trans friend is their shopping partner. That's I love me a gay dude to go shopping with. I mean, I've heard that on numerous occasions. But John's right. That's not the dude, you trying to go home with. That's not the dude that you want to call the man in your life. And I think
it's interesting that you would say that.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you would say that, because really what you're pulling up when you say that a shopping partner or somebody that you can hang with in that way, you're talking now about someone who is being available to you, emotionally available to you, giving you attention, time,
That's your barbershop
understanding.
counselor.
You know what I'm saying? When women go shopping together, when we go out to eat together, when we go do things together, the code is that we get to talk. Okay, we get to talk. We're gonna talk about it. We're gonna talk about everything. So someone who is studying us, studying our style, wanting to be us, wanting to flow with us, and have a open listening ear, that is someone who is emotionally available to us. Now, I may, like John, y'all say, I may not want to take you home into my intimate space because I'm not seeing you like that, but you're giving me everything that I desire, possibly in a mate, which is acceptance, attention, a listening ear, a place to land, as we spoke earlier.
Interesting.
Can
Somebody
we go
said
back to
sometimes gay men stand up more for women than a straight man. Mr. Leonard, go ahead and speak to what your thoughts are on this.
let's go back into ancient history. What we're talking about is the relationship between a queen and a eunuch. All right, that's what that is. The eunuch is the manservant of the queen. All right, he has the strength of a man. Okay, but he has been castrated so that he cannot impregnate the queen to go ahead, to destroy that bloodline. But that relationship you're talking about being built there, okay? The queen and the eunuch, okay, is he's at her disposal because that is his purpose, that is his role, okay? Let's bring that up to modern times. You have a woman who's friends with a gay man who can be her girlfriend, but be her competition. You see what I'm saying? Not in court. She gets the benefits of a male or a strong man, all right, the strength of that man, and the benefits of somebody who has feminine sensitivity or feminine
Attributes.
ideals. Yeah, exactly. See, so this is an ancient thing. This ain't just new. This didn't just start happening, right? So we have to understand, so how does that work within the relationship of our society? How does that, how is that, how can we, what do we really need to focus on? A lot of times what we're doing is we're looking at targets, okay? And we're, trying to hit the wrong target, okay? Gay people, homosexual, this is something that's been happening, but, what does that have to do with how you as a man? I've never, ever been, had any type of in my marriage or in any relationships with any women. I've never had any issues being worried about how a gay person was affecting my marriage, my relationships, whether it be male or female. So my point to all that is when we start, a lot of times we, lob grenades at these targets and start pointing at these targets and start doing these things because we really want to cover up our inadequacies and the things that we need to do, all right, to be on point, all right, as far as what we want to try to do. See, our failures, instead of just owning our failures, you know what, I just failed at that. Or I should have did this, and this is how this turned out. And instead of just owning those failures and owning those, things that we are shortcomings, right? We just want to say, my marriage wouldn't have failed if she didn't have that gay friend, or she didn't have, she wants, see, so, I mean, did we choose the right person? All right. Are we being who we're supposed to be? I mean, one of the things I learned from my first marriage that I'm divorced one time, I'm in a second marriage. One of the things I learned from my first marriage as a man is never live with regret. I regret not doing everything I possibly could do to save my marriage. Doesn't mean my marriage would have been saved, but did I do everything I possibly could have done to save my marriage? And I have to admit I didn't. So I have to live with that regret, but I also learn from it. I learned, okay, so in my second marriage, let's look back at my first marriage and see, you know, some of the things I didn't do, some of the things I should have done. All right, so I need to learn from those experiences. Like I said, so you know, we you know, obviously, you know, within, you know, obviously, you know, a lot of people are white supremacy. Yeah, okay. Here's the thing. A man has to provide. It's already, I mean, matter of fact, that's something that is a criteria that is not even, doesn't even have to be said. That is part of a man's essence. What can I provide? All right, because what a woman does for a man is makes him immortal. Right. So if you take a man's ability to provide,
Hold on,
away,
hold
now
on.
you
Say that again. Say that again,
I
Leonard.
said,
What a woman does for a man is
what
what?
it makes him immortal.
That's
Because
deep.
men, you think about it, that's what a man wants. If I build this, because a man, we can't have children physically like a woman can, but with our hands and our minds, we can create, right? We can build. You know, we have this creature we can build, and all of the stuff that we built and created. All right, where does it go when we die? I want it to live on. This is how I live on. This is how I become immortal. Yeah, Dad created that. So
Wow.
Leonard Walker created. See, so and these are things that men want because we know we ain't long for this earth, but we want our name to be spoken throughout history, or the things that we've done to still be, you know, and it doesn't have to necessarily be, you know, something created. It could be like with my father. There are things that I say and principles that I maintain that I got from my dad. That's how he stays immortal. That's how he stays relevant. That's how he lives on in me. All right. But I am his child. All right. I am his son. Okay. So these are things. This is what a man, how do I become immortal? So this is what a woman gives a man. Right. But what does a man give a woman? He has to provide. He has to protect. All right. He has to love and nurture. You know, he has to make her feel special. You know what? Is and I said this. I said every woman, all right, should feel like her man or what she's doing. All right, her man should feel like he's the luckiest man on the earth. I'm fortunate to be with her. I'm lucky. I you know, I came up to be with her. All right, that way she will be a number one. Right? Alpha males are number one. Okay? If the alpha male is the number one and the woman is a number two, she's going to get treated like a number two because he's always going to be about number one. Right? Not to say that, you know, any woman he's going to be with it. But yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
But are you, because I can hear it already, you know, you say that, and then all of a sudden there's a certain class of women out there that are going to say, oh, no, he didn't. I'm number two. You know, So, I mean, when you start speaking like that, are we now talking about natural roles and understanding that?
What I'm talking about is when we talk about the dynamics of the relationship, okay? Talk about the dynamics of the relationship.
So you talk about general and sergeant.
I'm talking about I'm talking about if I'm a man in demand, all right? You know, men at a certain age, all right, if they don't have children, if they have a certain level of success, you know, these men can kind of choose and pick who they want. They are number one. Right? But what is it about that one woman, all right, that's going to make him say, man, I'm the, you know, as many women as out there I could have chose. I chose you because I feel like you make me the luckiest man on the planet. All right? I feel like this woman does what she brings to me, what she gives me. I feel like, you know, is, you know, the day sets and the sun rises and sets on her smile. All right. You know, and if a woman can make a man feel like that, right, there's not anything that he won't do. And like I said, these are the number one men.
That.
These are alpha number one men. And this is the thing that a man wants. Say, man, can make me happy. Can you make me feel like, when I'm with my boys, I got you on my arm, say, yeah, man, this is my woman right here. Yeah, ain't she fine? Ain't she this? Ain't she that?
And you know what? And that's a thing, because you talking about when you with your boys, and when that woman is moving like what you're speaking to, then you're not ashamed to say, oh, my woman misses me, or hold on, fellas, let me go give my baby a call real quick and holler at her. You might catch it from the fellas, because that's kind of what we do jokingly. We understand, but jokingly, you might catch it. But when that woman is just, when y'all speaking to each other like that, like what you're speaking to, then it's easy to be able to say, hey, I'm let me step away. I'm gonna go give my baby a call real quick, or to call her in the midst of y'all kicking it or whatever. It's no big deal, because she's you looking at her like, this is my this is my everything right here. So I'm not mad at calling her or whatever in the midst of me and the fellas hanging out. So I really love what you said about that, because I think that's important, that honoring our women and in that respect is so powerful. So when we talk about that, then John, what would you say are some of the ways that maybe you yourself honor the important woman in your life?
And this is an interesting topic about what we're talking about. Men, actually, you're saying what men need to do to come up to the plate. How can men be better men? Now, in some men, some men would say, well, I'm doing my best in what I'm doing as a man. But we may not be talking to them specifically. We're talking to those who are not engaged in improving themselves as a human being, let alone as a man. Now, in relationships, men play an extremely important role in the family nucleus. You take away the man from that particular role, and you can actually have a breakdown of the family. You can have, you see a lot of women who choose the wrong men, who constantly have a disregard for men or the respect of men. Mainly, you'll find these women didn't have a father. They didn't have the first man in their life.
Well, let me ask you something real quick, because you said something. You said that men play such an important part in that role. So I'm curious, what do you what are the important things that the important parts that men play right there? Because that I think even that in and of itself is interesting for people to know those important parts. I mean, right now, the way society is, women can make their own money, right? So they're being pushed to higher ranks in the workplace nowadays, more so. They're being pushed to higher ranks in society. Right now we have a woman vice president elect here, Miss Kamala Harris, right? So when we look at that, what are the ways that men are still relevant and important in today's society?
The
or in that nucleus relationship, I should say.
Right. Well, listen, the woman is capable of replacing the man. That's why she's called the woman. In other words, when the man falls, she can pick him up and she can carry him. Right. She has that ability to achieve whatever goals she needs to achieve. I see it kind of opposite from the biblical text. I see it more from the Kemet understanding that the man came from the woman and he was here to protect her. In other words, she brought him here for that purpose, to build. he was stronger and he could really get some work done and protect her. But let me go here with this, because it's very interesting about this man in the nucleus, today's society. This society is not like it used to be. It's not, we're not talking the society 100,000, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 years ago. This is a different makeup. It's a different type of pressure on men today to provide and have enough the means for his children, or whatever the case may be. It's a different ball game. In this society here, we're living in a world where you take away the men, you have a breakdown of that family, nucleus of that family. Most women that have a problem, and you see women walking around that have babies, and they have babies by men that were no good. If you really look into her life, she didn't have a father to give that first image of how to choose a man. Number one issue in a woman's life. And some people say, well, it's important for a son. If it's important for a son to have a father, it is more important for a daughter to have a father. It's extremely important that she understands that love, so that she'll know how to choose a man. And this is what you have today. You have the cycle of the women choosing men for sexual purposes, and or not choosing a man that knows how to provide. Why? Because she didn't have that image from the first man. I've always said this: there's no such thing as a no good woman that wasn't made no good by some no good man, even if it was her father, because that was the first nucleus in her family that didn't show up. That plays a great role. When I raised my daughter, I had the opportunity, the blessed opportunity, to raise my daughter from the time she was 3. She's 28 now. And I had to learn another side of me. I had to pull a feminine side of me to understand her feelings and what she was going through, because her mother kind of abandoned her. So I had to step up this plate, because why? You know, we men, we think we are on this masculine thing, but actually you have some femininity in you. You have a little feminine in you. Just like the woman have masculine in her. That's why she can do the things she do. The problem is she can take too much of that masculinity and think she don't need a man at all. And then you have men who take too much estrogen in him. And then he says he don't need a woman. He wants a man. Right. So, but there's a balance in all of us. Men has to have a little bit more testosterone in order to take care of the task that he's supposed to take care of. But he still has to have a balance, because why? Here's the thing. And I find this most important. Men that have a negative disposition of women, it is because of his mother, the first woman in his life. And that plays a great role. Who she put him in front of, what kind of TV she put, what time. Imagine a boy growing up and his mom was allowing different men coming out of that bedroom, just different men. You know what that make him do after so many images? Either he won't choose a black woman that looks like his mom, or he'll be gay and choose a man like she's been choosing coming in and out of her bedroom. So the nucleus of the family of a man in there is extremely important to keep a balance in the family nucleus to where the boy grows up and he be a man, and the girl grows up and he be a woman. And let me say this, and let me end it with this. It's very important about this subject here. When you look at nature, just pay attention to nature. It's going to tell you the truth. It's never going to lie to you. Regardless of what you think, nature's not going to lie to you. I love this story about this specific species of birds, and you can relate this in all kind of animals and bugs. This specific species of bird, the female bird will go into a tree while all the male birds are following her. They're trying to mate with her, right? So she'll go to a tree. She'll sit in that tree for a minute or two. All the birds will know that's the tree she's looking at. So then the male birds will begin to build a nest. Each male bird is trying to attract her, man. They're trying to mate with this fine ass pretty female bird. So they build nests. All of them build a different nest. So the female bird comes back. You know what she do? She jumps and tests every nest. She shakes it. She picks it apart. She goes inside. If it's not beautiful, if it's not strong enough, she ain't going in there. The one she goes inside of, that particular bird that built that nest, he knows he's the one. She chose him. But what is the problem? What did she do? She's choosing a man. She's choosing a bird that can lay down a future for her, that can be able to build. That's what the bird is saying. And unfortunately, these birds got more sense than some of these women today that would choose a man based on how long his penis is or how cute or curly hair he's got. And he has no basis to survive. Nothing, right? I think that becomes the issue, because there's a man lacking in the home that you saw him building and know how he builds. That's how you didn't know how to choose a better man.
Hey, look, listen. Let me just say that always loving when you spit, and again, your church is coming. We the people are setting up the John Yah Ministry, where we gonna have all these type of talks and teachings often. And I also want to say that, listen, my father's from Jamaica. I can't help this curly hair, bro. I don't know, it's just there. But listen, Vicky Cobble posts something. She said something to the effect that, let's see here. She said that women have been taught consciously and subconsciously that men are our biggest predators. Now, what's interesting is where she got that from, or where she was thinking about that, is from a Facebook post. And I'm gonna kind of speak on this. The Facebook post, someone posted something, and they said there was a TikTok video or something out there that said, what would you do if there were no men on earth for 24 hours? Okay. And so here is some of the comments. I'd go take a moped and drive around in a big city during the night by myself. I'd go on walks at night. I'd dance around town at 3 a.m. without fearing for my life. I'd wear an actual bathing suit and go to the beach. I'd feel safe, I guess. I'd live how I want to live. I'd walk alone in the city and just breathe. I'd run around at night, blasting my music into my headphones without feeling like I need to take one out. I'd ride bikes with my best friend at night without our guy friends having to be there for safety on a Saturday night, wearing whatever I want. It's interesting when you see some of these comments. I would be confident on social media if there were no men around for 24 hours. This comment section, this is like 400 something or over 700 comments, 10,000 views, and the comments relatively resonate or mirror each other. And a lot of it, a massive picnic with my girls at late and sleep under the stars, wear whatever I want outside without being scared. A lot of it just revolves around, again, like Ms. Cobble said, there's this idea that men are the biggest predators out there. And I mean, I don't know, but I mean, is that true? I mean, what do y'all think about that? I think that's kind of wild that that is, I mean, I don't know. It's just kind of wild to me. I don't know. What do y'all think about that?
Let me touch on something that's very interesting. I studied Islam. I studied Islam for over 20 years, and I was an imam in the community here in Louisville, one of the imams. And I remember years ago, I had issues with the religion when it came to the women. In other words, I would always plug in something about why women have to wear the hijabs and the covers and stuff, right? So I remember sitting down with some brothers, and we was talking about that because I kind of refused to do that to my daughter, all right? So we was discussing, and he said, the brother would say, we'll read old books that talk about why women have to cover themselves up from their face and cover their eyes and cover their nose and mouth and cover their hands. He said, because there were men out here, and you attract the men. You will make men want to rape you. So you got to cover. So I said, well, wait a minute, hold up. I said, it's kind of interesting. So the men got the disease, but you're going to force it on the women to dress a certain way. You see what it is? Basically, we don't want to discuss our disease. So in other words, that's pushed up on the women keep from being raped. She has to wear that stuff to keep from being looked at sexually, right? Now there's two forms here. You got a woman who's walking around looking sexually in a sick ass society that is men's going to be predators and look at you. So then when women say, hey, she was raped, and however she got herself in that position is one thing. But in Islam, women are made to dress a certain way to avoid this type of sick mentality. Instead of addressing the men's sick mentality, you force it on the women and make the women feel ashamed for not dressing a certain way to attract. It is like saying the way we look at women today is through a Eurocentric eyes. In other words, we see women through African American standpoint of men. We see her buttocks. We love her buttocks. We love her breasts. The bigger the butt, boom, we got women that already got big butts, already pushing more stuff in her butt. But look at Africans. Do you know in certain African cultures, a little boy grow up and he sees nothing but women walking around with nothing, hardly nothing on. He ain't excited because he sees some ass and some tits. You bring him over here and we will be like, oh, look at that. She got big ass. He'd be like, Mom, that's no big deal. That's no big deal to me.
National Geographic.
Right. Some of them, some attraction to women are their feet. Some attraction to women in Africa are the rolls on their neck. It's not her buttocks, right? So we are looking at the women in this society through the Eurocentric lens, and we made her buttocks sexual and her breast sexual so much that that's what we learn after, and that's what we chase.
So that's interesting, because that goes right back into men being protectors. Just the same, men are hunters by nature. Yes. That is the case. So I think that, and when people say that, all they're thinking about is, bow and arrow, spear out searching for food. But that's hunters when it comes to women, just the same. We see it in nature, just the same. But at the same time, men are protectors. And that is that, in a sense, like you said, in the study of Kemet, bringing the man here as a protector, more so than anything else. So when you really look at this, then we go back to the most important things men today can do to be productive members of society. And we spoke on a few different things, how men show up, making sure you have a mentor out there, another man that is successful and productive in society, legally, as a mentor, right? And ultimately, even when it comes to women raising, children as single women, then I think it's important just the same to say, hey, step out there, and it's your responsibility as well to help find some mentorship for your kids. There's organizations out there, wherever you can go and make yourself available to where you can look around a room and see, okay, this gentleman right here, I've been paying attention to him for a while, and he is someone that I would like to help mentor my kids. There's, I think, again, going back to excuses, there's that just the same, where we need to let the women know, hey, you got to get out there just the same, and not sit back and say, I'm single and I don't have a man, therefore, I'm just raising the kids myself, and they're gonna grow up how they go. But being able to step out and help pull in some mentorship just the same, but at the same time, we look at the idea of this being such a crazy world. I mean, the Boy Scouts just getting hemmed up. That was like the last safe place for kids.
Yeah.
Now, pulling my kids out of Boy Scouts and whatnot,
Right.
But it's interesting. There's no more safe places anymore, it seems. But I feel like people have to focus on creating their own safe places just the same. Now, Leonard, you over there quiet as kept, no camera, no nothing. I'm gonna need you to speak and let us know. Oh, and real quick, there was a point I wanted to make. John, when you talked about African kids or people in indigenous environments, maybe growing up seeing naked all the time, You know, I mean, I grew up seeing all that naked too on National Geographic. You know, it says something when you look at, let's say, in the UK, for instance, they have a lower sexual crime rate or sex crime rate than we do here in the US. Yet sex is all over the TV and everywhere. So in essence, it's kind of like those kids growing up in those indigenous places where they see the body all the time. So there's no more surprise anymore, you know. So, you know, they're looking at things differently when they're trying to select a woman to be a wife. You know, they're not looking to see that ass. They're looking and you know, at more than just her physique, right? So it's interesting when you think about that, because you know, maybe the alternative is here in America, we all just need to take our clothes off and go to work.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It's a suggestion, you know, to fix that. You know, they got rid of them white vans, you know, that snatch people up and throw them into institutions a long time ago. There's no more money for that. So,
you know, one thing is about. Go ahead, Leonard.
Yeah, I think I mean, that's socialization, right? Is your culture. You know, you can look at a woman's body, and I think what John is saying is that, you know, is that looking at a woman's body as a man, and if it speaks to your masculinity and you like what you see, all right, that kind of brings out a lustful nature. Your carnal, it speaks to a carnal nature, right? Which, I mean, biologically, let's understand biology. Biology don't give a damn about society. Biology is like, hey, we're going to, for your species to survive, you're going to have the greatest chance of surviving, you're going to have to reproduce. Y'all are not immortal, all right? So, y'all are not eternal. So you're going to have to reproduce in order for your species to survive. So nature has made it to where reproduction is one of the most powerful urges that we feel. So, you know, attraction, all of that kind of stuff plays into that. So I think with John, you know, with the Eurocentric, I believe a woman's body is sacred, okay, in the sense of, these are the things that support life, that create children, all right, and you know, part of that, the attraction there is when you think about it, okay, this is my basic instructions, all right, that I have is I need to create more children. All right, forget about what other social circumstances, you know. Now, what your mind tells you is I want to pleasure myself, all right? But what biology says is, okay, you want to pleasure yourself, but you want to have, want to continue to create your species, all right? That's a law built into us, right? So in America, all right, it's kind of, you kind of walk a fine line because women want to be free to be able to express themselves how they want to. I mean, if a woman looks at her body and says, hey, I got a pretty nice body, I want to show it out, right? Should she be able to show her body off? I mean, that's up to her. But at the same time, you're going to show your body off and you're going to comment. So,
and I, Leonard, I think that speaks to even, for instance, I can say I've heard it from a man tell his woman, listen, baby, show off your attributes, but that's his wife,
right?
And he's there with her as her protector,
right?
So
he, like I said earlier, because hey, baby, let my fellas know just how fine you are, all right, and how lucky of a man I am. He's walking around proud with his head held high and said, look at my woman. I'll give you a good example. I know a lot of people, when Barack Obama, all right, and Michelle Obama had that gold dress on. Okay, I know y'all remember that gold dress, right? he when he introduced Ladies and gentlemen, the First Lady of the United States of America. And this ain't about supporting Rocco. It's about the actions there. He introduced his woman, and she came out, and she was stunning, right? But understand what he's thinking. He's like, y'all, look at my woman. Ain't she fine? And she came out and said, I sure am. See, so that dynamic there, all right, between man and woman, you got to have that. And it's not about, I'm going to pimp my woman out, or, it's about, men feeling like I'm the luckiest man on the foot. I got a woman, she does this, she does that, she's beautiful, and that makes a man want to do more. Oh, I don't want to lose my woman, so I need to be in the house at a certain time. I need to take a vow not to go to the strip clubs no more. I need to do, because I want to keep my woman, because I feel like she has value. I see the value in her, and she sees the value in herself. See, so that's a deadly combination.
And Leonard, I think that that speaks to the idea of maybe courting a woman. I think as you court a woman and you are getting closer to the idea of engagement, then there should be a weaning off of or a shaking off of some of those things. The strip clubs become more sparse of a visit, and all of that. Why? Because, you're wanting to spend more time with her, but at the same time, it goes back to how you want to show up in y'all's relationship, because as you show up, you're not showing up just for you. You're now showing up for the both of you just the same. Now, there was Phyllis. She said on here, we have taken on the disease of this society. And Miss Tressie, when you hear that, when I hear it, I think, this world was this society was sick before, our people got here, because there was a whole lot of, when it comes to the Eurocentric lifestyle throughout history. Before we got here, there was, before African Americans, or before the Africans came to America in 1691, there was a whole lot of, wild stuff going on, from the Greeks to that Eurocentric, descent. There was a whole lot of stuff going on. There was a disease, in this society before we got here. And I think, we kind of have succumbed to that in a sense. Now, what would you say when you think about the idea of how in this sick society can, a man focus on his ability to, honor his woman in today's society? Because we're heading there in this conversation.
We're getting there
into that relationship movement.
We are getting there, and I think and John, you can kind of just support me in this conversation with this, because I definitely think that the words that we use, how we use our verbiage to say what we're saying, you know what I'm saying? Like, instead of disease, I try to use the word dis-ease, meaning there's a discomfort. There's something that is not setting well with how we conduct ourselves or how we handle ourselves. We talk about, lust, sexuality, or what have you, but there's a word that we don't use a lot in our interactions with each other, which is sensuality, being sensual in our essence. And so if I can just speak a little bit about myself, something that's important to me is my essence and my sensuality, how sensitive I am, my touch when I am touching someone, whether it's a hug or I touch you on the arm or the shoulder or whatever, that my touch is healing, that my touch is soft, that it speaks, that the essence of who I am goes out before me and speaks on my behalf, because then it's not so much about what I'm wearing. It's not so much about how much makeup or how little makeup. It's my essence. It's how my skin glows. It's the healing, it's my virtue. And that's a narrative that we need to hear more of from our women and our men. When women begin to talk about our men, we talk about a strong man, we talk about strong backs, we talk about him being able to
Be strong.
yeah,
Be
well, we talk a lot more amongst women. We talk a lot more about him just being strong, but what that strength looks like, right? And when we talk about, girl, he's strong, he can handle me, we're talking about handling all that we are, because in society talks about us as women having an attitude. We attitudinal. We this, we all of that. And so when a man comes into our spirit and he can handle all that we are, we're talking about how he handles me and my and the things that I'm passionate about or attitudinal about. You know what I'm saying? Even when a man can check us amongst us women, we can say, girl, he knew how to check me. Like, he knew how to handle me. He knew how to, put me in my place in a way that I was like, okay, you know what you're doing. You know how to.
And thus the attraction grows.
Yes, because the narrative out there in society is that we can't be told nothing. We can't be told what to do. We don't want to submit. And I'm saying that is not true. But if you're doing it in a way that is condemning, that's condescending, and it breaks us down when you speak to us in a way that is condescending, or that we are nothing more than a piece of property, or what you're here for. When you speak to us in narratives like that, that doesn't allow us to be the strong, feminine, nurturing women that we are, because now I'm defending and protecting myself from you becoming now the predator. You're becoming the big bad wolf, and I don't feel protected. And when I don't feel protected, even as a lioness, you know what I'm saying, and I have to growl, pull out I have to do something to protect myself and my children, because you might be speaking down to me in front of my children, and I have a son. So how I speak to him and how I'm being spoken to in his presence is important, because I want him to grow up and understand that she's precious. She's a treasure. She's to be protected. She is to be covered. You can't just speak to her any kind of way. You have to appreciate what you have. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, that's my take on how, John, jump in there, because I think essence and sensuality is, I think that goes to chemistry and science. You gotta jump in somewhere with that.
Miss Tracy, hold on, Miss Tracy.
Yes, sir.
Listen, you was hitting on some points, and I think this is something that is essential that needs to be said from a woman's point of view. Please elaborate and explain to us the difference between sexy and sensual, or sexuality and sensuality.
John. I wanted you to give some backdrop on that, but yeah, so sensuality for me is just that. It's our senses. It's our sight, our hearing, our smell, our taste, and our touch, right? And how we show up in that. Someone mentioned in the comments our vibration and our frequency, or whatever. So sensuality, yes, we're speaking vibration and frequency of thought and consciousness. Yes. And so sensuality, that's your touch. Sensuality is your taste buds, how you like a woman in essence being that aphrodisiac that turns you on, right, intellectually, in thought process, in what your eye gate, your nose gate, your ear gate, what you're hearing. When I'm speaking truth, right? Spirit knows truth. And when you're hearing truth, absolute, right? Absolute meaning the equation of the thing is science. 1 + 1 is 2. There's no other way to see it. So when I'm speaking truth to you in understanding, I get you, I get where you're coming from, and I'm speaking absolute truth. Your spirit resonates with that, and you are turned on. Now I'm a dancer, and I've been dancing all of my life, so I'm always connected and in tune with a rhythm, with a sound, with a feeling, with an emotion, with the atmosphere, with the elements, right? There's fire, there's ground, there's air, there's water. Those elements in my senses are going to resonate when I begin to put sound to it and rhythm, and we flow. I'm appealing not just one gate, meaning your eye gate, breast and butt and all of those different things that we spoke to. Now I'm appealing to your internal dialogue. Now I am appealing to your manhood. Like when I say, baby, you a strong man, I'm not just talking about your chest. I'm talking about you got me, you undergirding me, you are making me feel safe. And when you speak like that to a man, he's gonna do like this, lift his chest up and like, yeah, I'm your man. And so I'm telling,
which in a sense, which prepares him for his ability to go out into the world and conquer whatever it is he has to conquer that day, conquer that job, conquer getting those sales, conquer. I mean, that speaks to that man so powerfully.
I want to use the power of my essence to build you, man. Whether you're my personal man or my man in my culture, my men, all of my men, I want to say to all of you, listen, I love you, and my womb is able to heal you. I'm speaking life to you. I'm not trying to break you down, demasculate you. So I am careful with my words. I want you to see my sensuality, my essence, my womanhood, right? Because that's the God-given gifts that God gave to me to build you, to edify you, to lift you up. When I'm counseling women and who are in relationships, I'm saying, listen, once he wake up in the morning and give his thanks to God, the next voice that he hears is yours telling him, baby, you got this, baby, go out there and, knock them dead. Being a voice that speaks to his internal dialogue. Why, Mr. Leonard? Because we're that rib, right? That strong protector of all of his internal organs. And so I'm protective of that. You know what I'm saying? Joseph and I have had conversations where I've said to him, I am protective of that. I want you to have a safe place to come and release that. But if you abuse that, then I'm going to feel defensive, and all of that's going to be turned off, because, right, they're supposed to work harmoniously together. When I'm speaking life to you, you open up and you protect me. When you protect me, I open up and I heal you. When I heal you, then you turn around and you provide for me. When you provide for me, that I make our home lovely. When I make our home lovely, you have a place to lay. When you have a place to lay, you know what I'm saying? It keeps giving. It's the gift that keeps giving when we as women flow on our essence and you as men flow in your strength. Am I doing a good job, Mr. Leonard, Mr. Walker?
Yeah. Hey, go ahead, John. And John, definitely want to hear you speak to that. I'll say just the same that, Tracy, when I hear that, when I hear, how you talk about sensuality and stuff, it makes me think of the idea of a man being with his woman, and they're, laying in bed, but it not being about sex, all the time. The ability for her to lay on his chest, feel secure, and them actually have an intimate conversation, and speak to her mind and heart in the midst of that. you know, and then not always be about, you know, baby, let me get some, you know, this morning. You know what I mean?
Open
You
me
know,
up, open me up, open me up when we talk. Open me up starting in the morning before you even go to work. You have, men, the power to open us up when you make it not just about the sex, right? Men and women want the sex. So that's hands down. That question is already solved. Now I'm not talking about sex anymore. Now I'm talking about sensuality, taste, touch, sound. You know, I'm talking about the senses. I'm talking about how you touch me. I'm talking about how you touch me here. I'm talking about how you're showing up and touching me and what I see. I'm talking about how you smell to me. A man that takes care of himself, that practices self-care, is letting me know that he matters to himself. If you matter to self, men and women, then I know that you're going to care for me. When you don't, if you show up at my door with a t-shirt on and it's got a hole in it, as you've been working out in your car and you didn't go home and take a shower before you got to me, you know, I'm like, really? Like, where am I supposed to go with this? And then you're looking at me like, woman, clean me up. Yeah, I've been working on the car. Fix me a meal. I ain't fixing shit. That's now you're gonna get my attitude. You're gonna get my attitude because if I'm taking care of myself. Listen, you want us to bathe in oils and, you know, body oils and flowers and rose petals
hey,
and
sugar and
stuff,
spice. Women, you know,
sugar
sugar and
and
spice.
spice and everything nice. And, you know, women want the same thing. I want you to bathe in oils. I want rose petals. I want you to get connected to that feminine side of you that is sensual, that is soft tones. I mean, you've already showed me you can be strong, but I want to see your strength in your that sensitive side of you and how you show up and practice that self-care as well.
I got my honeysuckle oil right here. You know what I mean?
Hey. And it's important, and that is healing too. And so, you know, the bedroom should be a place of healing. John, you can jump in. The bedroom should be a place of healing. It should be intimacy. It should be taste and touch and soft tones. And come on.
Hey, don't worry. Hey, Leonard, we're gonna let you plug that here in a minute.
Come on. But yes, it
Right, right,
should be a place
right.
of healing, and it should start. You should never just, you know, and I've had someone say, and I have to touch on this because this is an area that I think men can show up better in. When you are asking a woman to dress up as a character and be something or someone else before you have acknowledged the beauty that she is, that you know who she is. And I've said before, listen, you want another character, you want me to dress up as another character, you haven't even tapped into me, and I'm right here in front of you. And you guys are excited and you think that's something wonderful, and I'm diminishing because it's like you don't want me. Before you know what I'm saying, I don't want to dress up as a character. I am all that you and I'm not saying that whatever you do in the bedroom is whatever you do in the bedroom, but what I am talking about is intimacy, intellectual intimacy, intellectual sensuality. I'm talking about grown man, grown woman loving one another in their essence before we even get to the physical, right? Because I'm pretty sure you have come to a woman and you have felt her be tight or closed up, not fully open. You have not reached her in her essence or reached her heart, and you haven't had a meaningful conversation with her. You know it the moment you enter her that this is either about intimacy, sensuality, or this is just about pure sex. Men, you know that your parts down there talk, they hear, they listen, they know. And so I think if you own responsibility with that part, I'm not blaming. I am just saying show up in that area and don't just come into us without, appreciating the essence that we truly are. And we women have to be that essence. Use that power in the right way, in a way that is healing. Okay, I'll shut up.
Hey, y'all, I want y'all to do your thing. I'm gonna step away for just a minute. Y'all know I'm down here in South Florida working on this food truck here, and I got a big giant refrigerator that just showed up. So I'm gonna step out for a quick second. Leonard, do me a favor and help with the moderation, and y'all, keep the conversation going as you like. Okay, John, we need to hear from you right now.
Yeah. So what you just talked about is interesting because I wonder what men need to hear that. In other words, the men that need to hear that aren't listening. All right. So there's a certain category that falls in that description of what you describe of a man showing up. That's a description that we're trying to reach the ones, I guess, outside that box, because you really said a mouthful of where a man needs to stand up in his relationship. Again, the problem becomes, how come men don't know that? And I think it goes back to their upbringing. I think it goes back to their mother, their first woman in their life. I think it goes back to that. For a man who doesn't understand that, that's going to be a mouthful for him to even get that love for that partnership. It's not about sex. How do you get a man to see a woman beyond sex? In other words, he's intrigued or he's stimulated with conversation, opposed to stimulated sexually. We are living in a society, as Phyllis said, a sick society that's based upon sex. It goes all the way back to the images, even in the Disney cartoons. If you don't know anything about the Disney cartoons in the 30s and the 40s, they had sexual images. They had penis, vaginas inside the drawings, inside the cartoons. You have it was subliminal messages what they were doing. And what was they doing? They were pushing sex. They was pushing sexual messages inside these cartoons. This goes on today. Even Netflix does it. I even just stopped having Netflix just because of that reason. Some of their images you have to pay attention to. They're pushing sex to the children. So if a person grows up in a society that he only sees the woman as a sponge sperm to just soak up sperm. If he just sees her as something he can just have sex with, how do you get him to see that there's value in the woman that he's getting ready to go up inside of? We got an issue here where you got men and these guys that said, we talk about having sex. And you heard a man would tell a woman, "Oh, I'll pull it out." I know we all have heard that. As though they haven't been taught sexual intercourse, meaning that he can still ejaculate even if he hasn't had an orgasm through just having sex without a condom. He could still be ejaculating semen into her. We don't know that. So, but what a man doesn't see is that before he enters her, what does he see her as? And that plays a great role in how he sees that woman before he gets the chance to enter her. Is their relationship going to be built? Is it going to be built on something that is sustainable? If relationship is built on sex, as soon as the man gets tired of the sex, he goes somewhere else because that's all it was built on. If the woman allow him to enter too soon, because that's the prize for most men in this society. The prize is the bottom line, the sex. I'm gonna take you to dinner. I'm gonna buy you flowers, but the prize is the sex. He'll open the door for you. You can tell by a man by his prize. If he's doing all those things before the sex, then after the sex, he gets used to it. He stopped opening your doors. He stopped sending you flowers. That means that's all it was built upon was sex. So somehow the relationship's got to be built upon more than that in order for him to see value in that woman that he's next to. How do you teach a man that? How do you teach a man of the chemical that's released in his brain that the woman releases 10 times more than him, to make her fall in love with that man when he ain't released none of it yet, and yet she's having sex with him? That plays a role. Why a man can go from one woman to another, why a man can have more than one wife and not really have emotions attached to one. Those things play a role with our society and what we have in men today. See, the men you're talking to, we understand that. A lot of men get that. A lot of men was raised with fathers and raised in homes that both parents was there, and it was a healthy relationship. And a lot of us, we saw that. But we have a lot of men that are not seeing that. And now you have a lot of men, and it's a big number of men who are not recognizing the woman's role in society, see her as an object, mainly a sex object. I heard a young man who had a woman pregnant, and I've heard him say, it really was sad to me that he said, if it's a girl, I'm out of her. He didn't see himself raising a daughter. He would rather raise a son. So a lot of guys are like that. If they're unaware, they will not support and stay by the woman even after the child. So, you know, when you're talking about that, do you ever come across men, with you knowing that, do you ever come across men that just totally turn you off because they're not reaching that part of you in here? Is that an easily turn off for you when you meet a man that doesn't come from this first, and yet you know, you can sense that he wants sex first. You can sense his behavior, how he looks at you, whether is it sex he wants or is it mentality? Can you speak on that? Because a lot of women are not hearing that part of how do they judge a man based on what she sees in him.
Let me ask this. Have you ever gone into someone's house and as soon as you go in, you might see some little shoes some little slippers or socks or footies by the door, and you know immediately in this house, I'm probably gonna have to take my shoes off at the front door.
Yeah.
And you know that there's a certain standard as to how they keep their house. And so, you know, you're in a conversation, you don't have to be in a conversation, not even 5 minutes to know, you know, the standard of a woman. A man is going to size that up and know, okay, I got to do a little bit more, but to keep her attention, to stay around long enough before we get to that part, or I'm gonna be able to get this here real quick. I can be in and out within a few days. So when you talk about both men and women, I think that we have to understand the power that we have. Women, we have a power, but we can also be ignorant to our power. I think, John, you made an excellent point that, of course, we know who we need it to reach are out there. And sometimes we have to do the same thing that Netflix is doing, the same thing that back in the 30s and 40s where they just put it out there on the cartoons. We have to create a new narrative. And it's not new, it's always been here, but we have to create a narrative of what it should look like. We have to put it on top of a hat, a hat that you would feel proud to wear. We've got to wear it across the shirt. You know, like we say, Black Lives Matter. I have to say sensuality matters. Your essence matters. Now, when, you know, there are certain men that they are never going to really approach me. They're just not, because of how I carry myself. There's a certain way, you know, my supervisor at my job, you know, he uses a lot of foul language. Until I come into his office, all of a sudden he starts saying, "Excuse me, queen, apologize, queen. Okay, my bad, queen, I let that slip." You know what I'm saying? And so, and it doesn't matter whether it's just him and I in the office or whether the other coworkers are in the office or we're having a meeting. If I'm present, it's, "Excuse me, queen, sorry, I let that slip." So I have created, you know, that how I won't even say created. My demeanor, my mannerism, how I carry myself demands some level of respect. I don't go and say, "Don't talk like that around me." That's not what I'm doing. It's in my essence. It's in my flow. It's how I carry myself. yes, we as women are responsible, older women to teach the younger women. We have to be an example. And we don't do that by fussing and blaming. We do it by showing up for ourselves, exemplifying that, and doing what we're doing today. We have the conversation. We need our men to do the same thing. We need to use the word more as opposed to sex. And what we're not doing, we need to talk about this is how you do. You know, if you
Your
want to
virtue.
change someone's habits or what they're doing, you have to replace it. Dr. Field said this so excellent when he taught us this. Well, he didn't teach us this, but when he said this on his show, if you're taking something from someone, you have to replace it. You don't just snatch something away. So I can't just take away the fact that you wear your pants below your booty, and that is an ignorant way to wear your clothing because of this statement. But what I have to do is change your narrative and give you something else to hear, and then put that has to be, you have to be hearing that everywhere you go. And I've got to make that look cool. I've got to speak it in a language that you understand, which is why I say it has to be plastered on a hat, a shirt. It has to be made in a movie, a play, a commercial. I've seen commercials that it's about potato chips, but two women are kissing. Are we having a commercial about the chips? Really? No, that's not what this commercial about is at all. It's a subliminal message. So we all know what time it is. We also have to create subliminal messages that speaks to the absolute truth and make that a narrative that we hear. Instead of saying sexuality so much, we need to use the word, I like your sensuality. We just got to change it.
Great. I know he had a question up here. I don't see it now. I do want to address something that someone mentioned in the comment about the reason that Black women are now going. I hate to say this. I hate to use this word, date outside your race. The reason why I came to not liking that terminology is because I believe there's only one race. That's the human race. What I like to use the word is that women date outside their culture. If someone dating another race, quote unquote, I like to look at it as they're really dating outside their culture. They're not dating their culture anymore. And so what do you think? And I don't know the statistics, whether or not this is more now than ever before of men dating white women or women, Black women dating white men. What do you say to those women who have felt so either disrespected or just don't have the respect for Black men that they will choose from another culture?
Well, it's the reasoning behind it. Obviously, if two people fall in love, they fall in love. What are you going to do? But if you're pursuing it for the reasons of, like, it is disrespectful, and it's very difficult to hear Black men say the reason that I date white women is because they'll do anything I want them to do. Now, the reasoning that you're pursuing a white woman is all wrong. That's jaded. Now, if you tell me, we were on a boat ride, it was a bunch of people, we were sitting next to each other, we got to talking, it organically just flourished and happened, I'm happy for you all day. I don't care what the race, what the color, I don't care. But if you're telling me that I'm pursuing outside of my culture because you see our culture of women as distasteful, as disrespectful, as something, sub to, then your foundation and your base for pursuing your relationship outside of your culture is ignorance. I don't have another word for it.
So let me ask a question. And I'm backtracking a little bit. You guys spoke. And I guess we're still in the midst of talking a bit about sex. With regards to that, I was always of the understanding. I don't know who told me this. Maybe it was my dad. I don't know. But I was always of the understanding that women determined whether or not there was going to be any intimacy between, you know, a man and woman. And I was always of the understanding that a woman will make that determination for herself within, you know, a short amount of time of meeting a man, and that it's her, you know, we're not talking about forceful, you know, sexual relations or anything, but it's her in a consensual situation that makes the decision as to whether or not that man and woman are going to get together and have intimacy. Nonetheless, you know, what would you say to the idea that, because no one really thinks about women sizing a man up like that when they come in contact with a man or like that. You always think about men being the ones, you know, to make that determination that, yeah, I'm gonna hit that. But you know, women being the controller of that situation, you know, is there any validity to that?
Yeah.
I mean, do
Yes,
women ever
yes, and yes.
y'all sit back and say y'all gonna tap that too?
Yes. If I'm being honest, we may not use that term, you know, I'm gonna tap that, but women, you know, absolutely did, you know, we know if we're going to release it. I think we don't talk enough about the reasoning and the why. Again, it goes back to John Yah's question, of even dating outside of a culture or whatever. It's the base, it's the reasoning, you know, that within 5 minutes we know if he can have a bite or not. Vicky, come through, queen. The queens know. We know. Now,
and that's interesting because she says 5 minutes. You know, that just goes to show the difference in who's thinking what and what's thinking about who. Because what that says to me is that women would more so are thinking about a variety of things as to whether or not that will happen versus men, because a man is, you know, it's about 3.5 seconds. That might even be too long as to whether or not he wants to or is thinking about tapping that or not, because men are visual, and in a lot of cases most men are just looking at the physique, they're looking at the surface, whereas women are digging a little bit deeper and looking within. So how you talk, you know, how you walk, you know, some of these other things, how you speak, you know, can you conquer the king's language well enough? You know, and with a lot of what has been spoken about, sapiosexualism is a definite thing here, with, I think, more women than men focus on, you know, the attraction of someone that is intelligent or what have you, that speaks to that. So it's interesting when you talk about that, and that looking at that difference between 5 minutes for women versus 3.5 seconds for men.
well, you know, a woman can ask you 20 questions, hands down, and then she may go from 1 to 10, come back and ask 2 again, go back to 18, and then come up to 10, and make sure that you're giving the same answer and you're showing some consistency. We could do that in a very short amount of time, in terms of just, you know, determining, you know, based off of your answers or what have you, you know, where we are going with this. And even if we do decide in 5 minutes whether this is something we're gonna, you know, a direction we're gonna go in or not, there's still so many components that we desire. And I think both for a man and a woman, you know, it don't take long for a man and woman to decide that they're going to hook up. The decision is are we going to go beyond, you know, are we going to go beyond just sexuality, what we're looking for. As soon as a man say, yeah, I'm not really trying to be serious, we already know that's code word. Like, I just really want to hit that and keep it moving. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
But
if
you
you
know
cook
what?
good, I may come.
But that speaks to, again, like Johnny Rose, what she just said, about women. Some of these young queens, they don't have a clue about that code word right there, and men will prey on that. I mean, man, I can think about freshmen in college, just not having a clue. Their first sense of individuality, their first sense of being by themselves and all that good stuff, and just not having a clue, and they get got, and it's a situation that happens often. So that speaks to what is not being passed down, what is not being taught to the woman, and then it speaks to men, and they're not showing up for themselves, and the respect and honor that they don't have for themselves, as to them wanting to take advantage like that of women. So I know I
So
can
let me bring this
honestly
word
speak
up,
to
if
that
I may. Yeah,
as
let
a
me
young
bring this
age.
word up. And that word is, I apologize for cutting across you, but I'm gonna use
Go
this
ahead.
word, and that's called is judgment. And you know, yes, when we're young, we're going to explore, we're going to do some things that don't make sense or what have you. And this is why I say you never win with the blame game. When my young sisters come to me and we're having a conversation, there's no judgment on the table for what you have explored, what you have figured out, I didn't get that right, whatever it is. I try not to use words like mistake and, why, the word why, you shouldn't have done that, or what have you. The way we heal is that I get to accept my sister just as she is and say, hey, you learn some lessons. You learn what you can, what you can't do, what you should, what you shouldn't do. Let me clue you on. Let me teach you. Let me show you maybe what you have not considered. And we need for our men to do the same. No one responds well to judgment, to harsh criticism, to condemnation, to judgment. We don't respond well to that. But as a woman, as a nurturer, as a womb carrier, I am walking healing. And I open up that platform with no judgment, but let's just talk about it. Because what I'm learning is that we are not creating a safe space for for girls to come into their women.
You there, John?
I'm here.
Hello,
Okay, Miss
I'm
Tracy,
here.
I think you might have froze up on us.
You might have said.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
there you go.
When
Go back to
when
safe
a
space.
when a young girl starts getting boobies and puberty, all these little things start setting in, and she's feeling a certain way and start getting attention, and maybe she smiles at that attention. If we as older women start saying things like, oh, she fast, as opposed to, there's some things you need to learn now that you're getting your boobies, now that your body is taking shape, there's attention. My aunties grew up saying, listen, don't you ever go sit on your uncle's lap. Don't go sit on no man's lap. There are things that you do not do. You know what I'm saying? And not from a standpoint that your uncle is or isn't going to do anything. That's not how we carry ourselves. You don't go sit on no man's lap. I don't care if it's Uncle Joe or Uncle John. I don't care how much you love him, how much money he give you.
I think you froze up once again on us,
She's
Miss
back.
Tracy. I don't know if your
Yeah,
Wi-Fi is on or off,
I
but
think
Yeah.
it's, if
he's back.
it's off,
He's
then
back.
cut it
Yeah.
on.
it came off and yeah. I'm sorry about that. I don't know if that's on my end or not. I see everybody turning and then it comes back in. But you know, we
So,
have a
so
responsibility
it,
now.
is
Mhm.
that a problem right there? You know, sitting on, you know, I mean, are we teaching wrong when we say that? You know, don't go sit on the lap. Are we taking affection away, or are we? Is that just a matter of, you know, of not being
S-
the right thing for a woman to do or a girl to do? I mean,
I think that, you know, one of the things that we do, one of the things that it taught me is to just take responsibility for my own beauty, for my own essence, for how I flow. I'm taking responsibility and how I carry myself and how I handle myself. As a young lady, I should not be sitting on your lap because I am pretty, because I am beautiful, and because I am responsible, and because I know that it could send signals one way or the other, whether I wanted it or not. Doesn't mean that there's something wrong. It means just being responsible. It's just the same as not eating too much food and being gluttonous. You know, is eating food wrong? No, eating food is not wrong, but how much you take in, what you're taking in, sugar or things that are not good for you, does not benefit. The Bible does say all things are permissible, but they're not beneficial. So yeah, it's permissible for me to sit on your lap. It may not be beneficial because it just creates something that may or may not be inviting. So be responsible.
but when you're in a relationship, then you know your woman should always go sit on your man's lap, right?
Well, if you're in a relationship and that's how you
I'm
guys are set up, you know, you flow how
yeah,
you flow, Mr. Joe Tapper.
exactly. I'm joking right there. But you know, is Mr. Leonard still here? You know, one of the things that
Yeah,
I
I'm
see,
here.
just
I'm here.
okay, one of the things I see right here, right now, which you know, Leonard, you can speak to this. Um, we get a plethora, and I know it's a man up show. I mean, it's the same. I don't know. It's the same. You know, you get women's night out at a club, and you know, men gonna show up because the woman's there, right? This is the man up radio show where we try to speak truth amongst men, and we get so many women involved, more so than men. You know, Leonard, what would you say when it comes to the idea of you know, are men afraid of these conversations? Are they afraid to talk emotion, sensuality, or do men just not know this language?
Hmm.
I think that culturally, there's a whole lot of things we need to undo. Um, One of the things is what makes a man a man. All right. You know, back in the day, you know, you'd have fathers and uncles, or fathers and uncles, or older brothers that would go take their, you know, younger brother or their son or whatever. And in America, coming to age was for a boy or a teenage young man who was a virgin to go and sleep with a prostitute. Okay. Now, kind of don't do that now, although I think who was it? Lil Boozy was talking about doing it. But the whole thing of having sex is part of an initiation process of manhood. That needs to really kind of be undone because there's a lot of irresponsibility there. Okay, yeah, all right, you having sex. Well, okay, it's your first time, you know, all this. Well, if you make a baby, all right, are you prepared for that? Well, no, I'm not really. Okay, so you need to prepare yourself for the things to where you can deserve, all right, meaning that you can be free and open and be with the woman you want and you know have relations. Now I know you know, like I said, it's that's you know a difficult thing because we live in the age of grown and sex, right? We want to try to say, well, you can wear a condom, well, she can wear She can have birth control. Well, she can do this. She can do that. You know, he can do this. He can do that. We got to get, you know, back to saying, hey, listen, man, it's okay for you to be a virgin up until marriage. All right. These are things, you know. I mean, I'm not trying to put nobody out there, but you know, that's what I told my son. I was like, hey, you know, it's okay for you to be a virgin up until marriage. Now, if you go out here and make a baby, you got to be responsible. All right. But understand is that know who you're making a child with. All right. That woman, if you're going to make a child with her, she should be your wife. All right. That's a lifelong, whether you like her or not, once you make that baby, you know, that's going to be a lifelong commitment and relationship right there. You know, for even after 18 and that, you know, so you're linked to that person. So why not be linked to somebody that you want to be linked to, right? See, so we got to do these things. We have to have a code. I honestly believe that most people, even if it's unspoken, have code. Now, back in the day, all right, we had a code, all right, and John can speak to that. There were some things that men we just didn't do, or no, we don't do that. That's not our way. That's not what we do, okay? And this is what, you know, older men, ladies did it too. This is what older men and Tracy spoke about that. About it. No, you don't sit on a man's lap, okay? As a young man, no, you don't do this. You when you look at a man, you look him directly in his eyes. When you talk to him, you don't hold your head down. You shake a man's hand firmly. All right, there are things, you know, colloquialisms and different idioms that, you know, culturally that we do to say this is what you do, and you start teaching your sons this. It's rites of passage. Think about it like this, all right? When a father's in the home, okay, and I can tell you when my father was in the home, right? I can tell you when my father was in the home is I went through rites of passage. One of the first things I learned how to do with any child, okay, you learn how to tie up your shoes, all right? Who taught me how to tie my shoes? My dad did. So why is that important? Because that's the first step a boy or a girl, all right, does towards independence, towards self-sufficiency. I can tie my own shoes. Okay, so now I can dress myself. Now I'm becoming an independent person, right? Next thing my father taught me how to do, he taught me how, let me ask how many brothers out here know how to do this. My father taught me how to tie a double Windsor knot tie. Okay, and I was about maybe 9, 10 years old practicing. I didn't have the clip-on tie. I had a tie that you have to tie, all right? And my dad taught me how to do that, right? My dad, you know, when I was young, he taught me how to scramble an egg, he was teaching me how to be an independent man, okay, from an early age. When you don't have a father in the house, not to say that mothers don't do that, all right? But, you know, is it his job for a mother to teach a boy how to tie a tie? She can, yes, she can, all right? But that's the bonding that a boy needs to have with a man. There are certain things that boys need to do with men so that they could bond, right? All right. My dad, we was working on the car. I can remember the first time, and I tell this story, the first time my dad taught me how to change a tire. Why is that important? Because if I'm out with my mom and the tire goes flat, she should have to be the one changing the tire. She shouldn't be the one pumping gas or anything like that. I'm the one who's supposed to be doing that, right? So my dad taught me how to change the tire, right? We had a flat tire, all right, on our car. It was old, you know. But my dad, he just told me, he said, I'm going to show you, all right? And that's, you know, shout out to my brother Mishon, because this right here goes into this military thing of instruction, demonstration, and practical exercise, right? So he showed me, and he let me practice. So when the tire was flat, he just told me, I think I was about maybe 13 years old. All right, he said, go out there and change that tire. And I went out there in the trunk, got the jacked the car up, chalked the wheels, exactly what he showed me how to do. When I came back in the house, I told my dad, I said, I changed the tire. And he smiled at me and I smiled at him, and we could not stop smiling because that interaction between a father and son was like, without him saying it, well done, son. Okay, you learned what I taught you, and I'm proud of you. And I said, see, Dad, look what I did. You know, I can make you proud of me. This is what's missing. All right. So we got to get that back. That's why we need a code. We need rites of passage. You know, and it's something simple. You know, it's nothing else. You know, how to, like you said, how to tie ties, how to you know, how to speak to how to speak to another man, how to be serious. All right, and don't get me wrong, I'm not, it's when you're out here in this world as a man, okay, another man a woman needs to take you seriously as a person who is about their business, not somebody who's about to rob you or a threat, okay? You know, when a person looks at you, this is somebody, right, that, okay, this is a person who's about to, it's not so much that I'm threatened, but I have to respect that person because they're coming at me like someone who's about their business, okay? Somebody with intelligence, somebody that I can't get over on or talk down to, or somebody that's not here to rob me. We're here to, take care of some legitimate business. Or if somebody's doing business with you, they can't get over on you. They can't come to you and just tell you some crazy stuff. So as men, all right, men that already possess these types of traits, okay? I tell you right now, I'm doing that with one young man, okay? And a lot of people, well, you could be doing it, we could be doing more classes. If you just took one young man, all right, and one of the things is once you get him to a place where, okay, now you're a self-sufficient man, all right? All I ask is that you pass that on because, statistically, over 60, almost 70% of our boys are being raised by women, okay? That's, and this is not about putting women down, okay? This is about, okay, we talk about, remember earlier I talked about burdens. It is a man's burden to provide and protect, right? And to lead and to guide. That's his burden right off the bat. When a man comes to a woman, he has to be able to prove he can do these things. But it's a woman's burden to protect her reproductive self, all right? Who is she having a child with? Is that person going to be around making good decisions, for a child, all right? The greatest gift a mother can give a child, and it's been said, is a good mother, okay? I provided my child with a, outstanding father, right? That means that that's not just a good father, but a good husband, because those eyes are watching. See, so like I said, with that many women raising our boys, what you have is a continuous self-perpetuating problem. All right, it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. You're going to continue to have these problems with these young men growing up to be adult males instead of man. All right, moist adult males that don't know how to be men or don't figure out manhood till they like 45, 50 years old. Right, and after that, you can have umpteen children by umpteen different women, kind of, figuring this manhood thing out on the fly. This is what we're setting ourselves for. So, are we supposed to go out and marry these women?
Hey, Leonard.
Well,
something you said there, Leonard, very interesting. You talked about how, it's a man's, men have that burden. It's their responsibility to prove themselves. That right there is something that, I definitely feel like is lacking. Men aren't proving themselves anymore. I don't know. It just seems like there's no need to prove themselves anymore because men aren't holding themselves accountable, right? So we got that issue, but then women are not holding the men accountable either. They don't have to prove themselves. I've heard plenty of women, you guys have probably heard it too. A woman will, that is successful out there will say, and I've heard it said plenty of times, I just need him for that one thing that, he got, to help handle me in that moment in time, as opposed to anything else. I don't need him for nothing else. I got the money, I got everything else. I don't need him for nothing else. I just need him for that thing, right? So, now there's no proving. There's no need to prove yourself anymore. You know, as long as you can, stroke it right, then that's what it is, because nobody's holding anybody accountable anymore. In nature, we look at nature, and there's always something, that the male has to do. Either he has to beat the crap out of some other male, the winner gets to mate, or he has to do some amazing insect dance or something, and show off his skills, when it comes to being able to get the woman. In nature, it's like that. They have to prove themselves. And I hate to always correlate things to nature, but nature is like, an ecosystem that is closely related to humanity. And we can learn a lot from nature. But then when we look at nature, monogamy is not found. So then there's that question as well. Are we even right in trying to be monogamous?
Well, there are monogamous species. I mean, you see these geese that walk across the street and cause, all the cars to stop. They mate for life, or till death do they part. So, but
because the insect world, nature is all about instinct. It's simply instinct.
Well,
John, you spoke about this before.
You remember I said there are two ways, all right? Life, to continue life in a species, there are two ways, right? The two ways are you can either be immortal, right? Meaning you live forever, all right? Or you have to continuously reproduce. So, and, kind of speak on what John was saying, a lot of brothers' minds are blown about how human beings all start out as female. That's a scientific fact, because the female, right, species is designed to make sure life continues to perpetuate, right? Without females, this is why there are, more males or less males than females. Why males can reproduce. Like I said, biology don't care about societal rules, right? Biology is about, hey, we just want to make sure there's some human beings left in the universe, right? So in order to do that, we're just gonna have all females and then a couple of males, and this one male can just go, But in our society, we have a little bit more balance. We can kind of, make
exactly. And Leonard, when you speak about biology, Vicky brought up something. We have to consider mass incarceration, lack of education of Black men, as well being stamina in the lack of men being able to, quote unquote, man up. And I'm laughing at that because, when John and I were talking about the show this week, that specifically was a topic that we were looking at covering. And I kind of feel, since we're there, that we should focus on that, because that plays a part as well when it comes to men and their confidence level, and having a confident man being able to man up in today's society. I know people who the man in a relationship is experiencing some issues in that manning up area, and then maybe the woman not being as compassionate and not focusing on how she can help uplift that man with respect to that. And therefore the man ends up, lacking and not focusing on how he needs to get that area right. So John, John, you gotta speak on that, because we're here now. So how does health of a man, help him when it comes to how he shows up for society in this day and age?
Hey, check this out, Cole. So the first boys experience depression, the first time he actually began to feel depression, a young boy. It is, and it may be based upon it's got something to do with his age, and it would have something to do with what he have seen on television and or coming up in his family household. Let me give you mine, because since I'm writing about my story in this understanding of what young men are missing and I'm gonna relate it to the prison situation. So a young boy's first depression. And so when he's coming up, and it depends on what he's attracted to. If a young boy is coming up like myself, you're attracted to the girls. So check this out. When you in the hood, when you in the neighborhood, not the hood, when you in the neighborhood and all your friends got bikes and you ain't got bike, you want you a bike because you want to ride with your friends, right? You got he once got a basketball, they're playing ball. You want to get in and play ball, right? You want to be collectively involved in everything everybody else is doing. It's just part of coming up, right? So one of the things that we was coming up as boys, and you guys can relate to this, if you was coming up and you had your boys with you, you wasn't interested in girls at no 6, 7 years old playing football. You wasn't interested in girls. You're probably interested in getting you a bike. Hey, so-and-so's got a bike. My mama's going to give me a bike Christmas. Now he's got a bike. He's back. Now we can all go ride somewhere together with a bike. The one that ain't got the bike, he can't ride because he ain't got no bike. So that's collectively how young boys begin to relate to each other and build this thing about manhood or boyhood into man. So check this out. They get a little older. Now, some of them have interested in girls. Okay. Now, as you get into your teens, into your late teens, there's a pressure that comes on young boys. Specifically, young boys that have not asserted themselves, meaning through school, or I'm going to go to school and go to college, and I'm going to be something. In other words, if he don't see a vision, he automatically seeks into this depression. Where does this depression come from? It's his first attraction, the woman, the girl. Right? If all his friends got bikes and he ain't got a bike and he can't go with his friends, guess what? He'll feel a little depressed because he can't hang with his boys automatically. So let's take this girl thing. The young boy's first thing he wants to do is impress a girl. But check this out. As he gets older, the older he gets, living with his parents or his mother, the more depressed he becomes. You see? Because he can't bring his girlfriend home. Can't have sex with her at his mama's house, and it don't look good. So he gets older. Now he's in his early 20s, mid 20s. He's in a stage of depression if he's still living in mama's basement, and he doesn't have anything to assert himself to prove his manhood. What is manhood? Manhood is the ability to have these two traits: being able to survive and being able to survive or provide. Boys grow up, and we have those traits. And so how do men attach what is a man, right? Look at him. He's standing up. He's taking care of his family. He's on his own. He's doing his thing. That becomes an attraction for young boys. And look, he's got a wife. He's got a girlfriend. He's got the women after him, that becomes attraction. This is why if a boy is living in his mama's house, if he's catching the bus, what girl can we catch on the bus? But you can get a woman on the bus. But ain't no woman that's got a car gonna get a brother on the bus. He gonna pass him by. So automatically, if he wants the girl, he's got to have a car and or his own place. That's pressure on him right off the bat. So he's going through this stage of depression because, again, he doesn't have this future. If he had a future, then he wouldn't be worried about what he ain't got right now. The girl, because he ain't got the car, because he ain't got his own place, right? So then these young boys, they get this depression, and then somebody whispering in their ear, man, let's get this money. Let's sell this dope. Let's rob this. You see, and then it leads because he doesn't have a father to give him the guidance. Now he ends up running with the wrong person. So let me give you a story about some young men I've met in prison. This one story, this young man that I ended up mentoring, even after he got out of prison, he went in at 18 years old. And I looked at him and I said, wow, this young boy, he don't belong in this place. And I kind of said, I went to him and I talked to him and I sat down with him and I said, man, what are you in here for? He looked like he was 16, but he was 18. So this is what he said. He said he was riding in his mama's car. He just graduated from high school. He was riding in his mama's car and he picked up his two friends, one in the back seat, one in the front seat. So he's riding downtown. They having fun, maybe drinking and smoking, whatever. He's not thinking about no drama, trouble, or nothing. So they get downtown, and then some words are crossed. Some words passes with some pedestrians or some people on the street. And so the story goes, some white boy on the corner hollered, nigga. The one in the back seat pulls his gun and starts shooting. So what do the young man do with the car? He takes off. He panics. He goes drop them off, and he goes home. He didn't know any better. He goes home a few hours later, knock at the door. The police is here to pick him up. So now he goes and tell on his other two friends who was in the car with him. But guess what? He's got charged with accessory to the crime. So he gets 5 years in prison. So his life is now going through some turmoil he knew nothing about. He knew nothing of the guy in the back seat who was going to do that. Had no clue, but he's living in this society. So I asked him, I said to him, I said, did you not know the young boy had a gun? He said, yeah, he knew he had a gun. I said, and you saying you didn't know he was that type? He said, yeah, but he didn't know that was going to happen. See how the responsibility go? He was unaware, walking around here with no guidance. Picked up his two friends who he runs with. One of the guys got a gun. Now he is serving 5 years in prison. Guess what he does when he gets out? Because he's in prison amongst men. Now he gets out of prison. Now he's a stick-up artist. He goes back to prison again for robbery and kidnapping. Right? So it led him to one step to the next. I can tell you many stories of young men in prison because they didn't have a father to teach them. And they were running out here with young boys, their own age, their own peers, and they didn't have a father. And all it takes is that one good little kid that ain't never been in trouble before, mixed with the wrong ones, mixed with the wrong brand because he didn't know any better. Then he ended up in prison. There's a story like that of a guys who robbed the store, and a guy in the back seat had nothing to do with the robbery, but he's riding with his friends. Now he gets 20 years in prison just for being along with it. You see how it leads towards the men, it's important of the men being in these young boys' lives, because the prison is full of young men today that are going to come out here with no real guidance, and depending on who they were with, mentored in by the inside, they can come out to be worse they were when they went in. So it actually becomes a cycle of young black men of what we're talking about. This cycle because of why? Two things. One is the television that's out here, the what is being pumped into their brains, and their lacking of a proper parent. I say this, and I say this all the time. If you had a child and you ain't got no job, the court should take your dick from you and shouldn't give it back till you get a job. Right? Because you don't have the right to have sex without a condom and bring something in this world you can't take care of. So here's the problem with men. These young boys coming up today, they're seeing what society tells them. Look at the rap music today, how they degrade the women and only look at the women as sex objects. These young boys adopt to that. They are in tune to that. And then that's when they don't care about the courts putting child support on them. They don't care about none of that. They're not fearing going to jail. They don't fear nothing because they don't have a future. They have nothing to lose. That makes sense? So we got a lot of young boys right now in prison, and they're going to come out. So this is a part of my story because it was a part of me. After my father died, I easily ran with the wrong crew, but I was the wrong crew because my father raised me watching gangster movies. My friends didn't have that ability. So I came up a little bit different after he passed, but I came across young men who've never been in trouble before, but ended up in my company because they would end up in my company, suffered what I suffered. So they was in prison with me, but they were really innocent. And I was the one that was really the villain. That makes sense? Because there was no father figure to say, hey, get away from that boy. Don't run with him. You can't come over to this house. Those kind of things are lacking in the young men today and their ability to respect women on those two issues there, not having the proper parents and watching too much television.
Man, and it's hard when you start talking respect today when you in the club with your mama. Y'all both kicking it in the club. Well, I tell y'all what, man, this is as always, and Tracy, we appreciate you staying on. I do want to talk real quick because Tracy, you were going to jump on a Zoom call, right, with a company. You in your coaching are also a health coach right? And help people as it pertains to a journey of healthy eating and losing weight, correct?
She's muted. You
Oh.
got to unmute.
Yes, yes, indeed. So yeah, I coach and I do mentoring and all of that just for healthy life, for healthy eating, changing, making good choices for yourself, which ultimately all goes back to self-care and self-love. And so, Trusty Renee, you guys can always DM me for that and get some more information about that. But I just want to say that I love the conversation that we're having today, and I so appreciate John Yah sharing about the journey of incarceration. It made me just kind of want to ask a question, even how do we queens, how do we women support you guys and young men that are coming out, starting seemingly innocent, getting in trouble, and then, because we're all encouraged to become pen pals and pen buddies and writing stuff, and then that turns into relationships and visits, and now you somebody daddy before you even come out and figured out how to be a man. And I think until we say it out loud and keep having this kind of conversation, and my heart, it starts at home with the man, and it does. I see the comment that Vicky Cobble made. It does start at home with the man, but the interesting thing is that because of how things happen out here, a lot of our young men, innocent men that did have good, loving parents, take a drive out here and seemingly find themselves accessory, like you were saying, John Yah, and in some trouble, and then life taking a whole nother turn and a whole nother journey. And there are people out here who have had good parents, men and a mother and a father in the home, and still took a different path, whether it happened in college or, in high school or what have you. So things happen out here in society that changes the narrative of your path. So again, it's why I'm saying it's so important to not play a blame game. Yes, it does start, but even when, it's like, yeah, it started there, but we're here now. So how do we have the conversation from here now? If somebody doesn't know how to use their voice to speak up, or they have ignorance, they're not, clued in about how to kind of navigate these waters, how do we continue to get this word out here? Yeah, it's so hard to get this word out here to those who need it, because one of the first things you said to me, John Yah, in this is that I'm saying something right, I'm saying something good, but I'm saying I need to be saying it to the ones who really need to hear it. And so, for me, the good of this show is how do we support even Man Up Radio in terms of, marketing, strategizing to bring this to a greater platform for people to really, really hear the conversation that's being had, because obviously all three of you great men on here have the capacity and the ability to mentor, to I don't know, wear a shirt, start a movement, do something. I know Mr. Walker, you saying that you're a mentor in one, but it's so needed. This conversation is so needed, and just needs to be out there. Thank you, Joseph, for giving me the platform about the health, but I'm just like, I'm parking it right here with the men, because we don't get to hear this side of the conversation enough. There's a million Zooms out there that you can jump on for women, women's needs, women health, women mental, women everything. But for a man to say, I need help, for a man to say, I don't know how to put a tie on you know, or for a man to say, I don't know what to do with my anger because I saw my dad beating up on my mom. Like, these conversations need to be had, you know, more consistently, and the platform needs to grow.
Absolutely, absolutely, and you know, that's what we're here for. You know, and I'm proud to say that every week, you know, even when you go back and look, I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds of views that are had on these shows, and anyone, you know, hit that share button and share so that that conversation is out. And as we're zeroing out, I want to give everybody a chance to kind of you know, say something about, you know, plug whatever you got going on. And so, you know, Miss Tressie Renee, again, y'all can always reach out to her, hashtag Tressie Renee. And it's, I think on Facebook, Tressie Renee Movement Master. And that is MEANT, Movement Master, right? So y'all can reach out to her there. And I believe, you know, outside of that, even with the health, it's jtwellnessmovement.org as well. So reach out to her and y'all can have a conversation about that and look at that journey that she's moving on there. Now, Leonard, you've got, you showed us something earlier and you hit me with that link, Elux. That's your sister, right?
That's my sister. My sister makes soaps. She makes body butters. She makes beard balm. She makes men and women soaps and body scrubs.
Don't forget this, because I know somebody on here that's gonna love this. She makes candles too, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't think she makes candles. Or does she? I
see it on there. It's on the site. It's on the site.
Well, there you go. She makes those.
She makes candles too.
The biggest thing that we're interested in with this particular soap is called SIR. For anybody that's health conscious, that wants, you know, all natural ingredients. Like I said, it's all natural ingredients. This scent is called SIR because it has a hint of amber and tobacco fragrance in it, right? So you think, well, tobacco, not the burnt tobacco. Not the burnt tobacco, but you know, and she's coming up
tobacco
with
before it gets burnt. You know, give it a little bit of some. Is that that you know? So the commercial for that would be, you know, SIR, the smell of a man, right? So there we go.
There you go.
Hey, what's the website to that?
So that was that. It's called Elux Wash. ELUX wash.com.
That's what's up. That's what's up. And Leonard, just to speak to what you do as well outside of this, you know, what is it? History 400 Untold, President.
Yeah, History Untold 400. That's, you know, getting our people educated as to who we are, where we come from.
What's the website today?
We don't know about. That's historyuntold400.org.
And you can check it out on Facebook as well. And I know you got a couple other things that you're involved in too, right?
Yep. My biggest project is going into the new year, learning about the election here in the state of North Carolina. One of the things that happened that I've been pushing for is 37,000 of our people went and deregistered under a party and became independent. So
I saw that. There was an article written about that.
Think about the election. Right. So coming next year, in the year, you know, coming in the midterm elections and in 2020, 2022, and then the 2024 election, we really want to have at least in one state, right, where all of us are independent voters. You know, so voting is a numbers game. North Carolina, just almost 1 out of 4 people are American descendants of slaves or people within the African diaspora. If we take our vote and become independent, now all of a sudden these parties are going to be like, oh my God, what are they doing? What's happening? You know, see, so now that brings attention to us, and now we are the ones that can control the narrative and start talking about things that we need to have done in our communities and pit these parties against each other in doing that. So that's one of the things that I'm working on in this future.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, beautiful. Now, Mr. John Yah, Mr. Cut the TV off, Mr. Cut the D off. If you got a baby and you ain't got no job, um, go ahead, go ahead, hit us real quick. I know you got a website or two out there.
Yeah, well, my company here at Abibi Tume, we do the incense at sayababa.com. We supply over 400 stores in Louisville, Lexington, Cincinnati. I'm also an author writing my book that is going to be awesome. It's going to be Escaping Death Row, the journey, the expectation of the innocent man. But listen, check this out. The sister mentioned about this thing about sitting on men's lap. I just wanted to touch on this real quick because this is a culture, and we have a sick culture when you have to go that route, and that's kind of where we are in that culture. But here's what also I want to plug in that's very important on the little boys that are being molested too by men, uncles and members of the family that's kind of been swept under the rug and nobody seems to want to talk about. It's little boys coming up being touched by men. I think that points to our sick culture that we have amongst ourselves that's kind of not talked about. We don't even talk about the molestation of our baby girls either, but we don't talk about the molestations of little boys who actually keep their mouth shut about it. They don't go and tell as they get older because they're ashamed of it, right? So you don't hear it like young girls growing up and then admitting that uncle touched them, but you don't hear it in boys much as you do in little girls. So that's very important too, that nobody really wants to talk about, sort of like under the covers of the culture that we have of men touching boys. Okay, so I just wanted to bring that up.
Absolutely. I'm glad that you brought that up. I think the more that we boldly speak of it and make it a regular conversation in our living rooms, at our dinner tables, the more we give a safe place for it to come out in the open. And also, having accountability partners, men, women, that we are creating a place to have conversation, a safe place to have conversations. And I wanted to say also, John, because the last time we was on the show, you called me out, you put me on blast and said, sis, where's the book? Are you writing? Are you speaking? Yeah. And so I have started the book.
Oh.
So I've started writing on the book, and I'm excited to just really share my story and my heart with as many men and women as I can out there. Someone asked about my online site, and we have a online site for the health coaching. Joseph, if you'll give that site, I think you mentioned it. And I have my own personal website that is in construction. It's being worked on right now. So if you are looking for me in particularly, Trussie Renee Movement Master on Facebook is the easiest way to find me. You can always DM me. I do counseling for both men, women, couples, and and just whomever just needs some help with navigating through life. I'm here. Just conversation.
And my man Leonard did pop the eluxwash.com website in there as well. And y'all can always find me just the same, hashtag Just Ask Joe. Again, hashtag Just Ask Joe. I swear, me, Sean, love him to death, but he butchers that up so much. He'd be announcing me, it's Ask Joe. Bruh, it's Just Ask Joe. And you can check me out online at justaskjoe.net. Again, that's justaskjoe.net from financial consulting as well. So, it's always beautiful. And we're talking more and more about linking up and creating this space more often. I mean, right now, it's every other week. If people out there don't know, myself and Michon Daniels, we alternate every other week. All right. So as my man came out the military as a surgical technologist, that's what he does in civilian life. And ultimately, we alternate every week. So whenever you see me at the helm of the show, now I'm with him a lot of times on his show as well, because as a moderator, that is something that I've learned to do with this space. But respectfully, there's one week that is my show and another week that is his show. So next week it'll be Mr. Michon Daniels, and you know that he's always revolving around accountability and responsibility, and his 20 years in the military. So you will hear about that. With that being said, again, justaskjoe.net. You got Miss Tracy Renee on Facebook. You got Saya Baba, just the same there with Mr. John Yah. Cut your D off if you ain't got no job and you got a baby. I mean, that was just that right there. That statement right there was just wild.
Cutthroat, right to the point.
You know, I mean, because we probably have the technology to be like, okay, you know what, sir, here's what we're gonna do. Here's what's gonna happen. Well, you know, the judge sits there and goes ahead and puts in an order for your D to be cut off, and you'll get it back when you get your shit together. I tell you what, if in fact they started implementing that rule right there, there would be no homelessness at all. None whatsoever. And that makes me think of some third world countries. Like, for instance, my man grew up in Haiti back in the 80s, and he was like, bruh, we could leave our door open at 3 o'clock in the morning and not worry about anything, because the punishment for damn near everything was death. If you stole something, your hand got cut off. So ultimately, maybe we need some harsher rules in this. You know, but I'm just asking that if we do get harsher rules like that, then can we please just make sure that I'm guilty? Just you know, please. Yeah, I need the trial, and then the trial after the trial, and then the trial after the trial after the trial to make sure that I'm guilty. You know, I'm not trying to be caught up innocent and then get my D chopped off. You know what I mean? That would be terrible. But just the same, History Untold 400. Check out Mr. Leonard Walker, and again. See, if y'all look at the comments, see what my man do. See what he do. I mean, he butchers me. All right, man. I'm gonna holler back at y'all, and we'll see you next week. Just the same as we come back to be showing Daniels and the Man Up Radio Show.
Peace out.
All right, now, peace out, y'all.
Bye-bye.